Chapter 1998. The moment this familiar voice sounded, not only the bodyguard subconsciously paused, but also the little assistant, Inyu, Senaris Chun, and the staff, all looked in the direction of the door. Then everyone saw that at this moment, it seemed that a notice had just come down, and Ning Shi, wearing an evening dress, stood at the door. Seeing the person, the sharp-chinned little assistant's originally unscrupulous face suddenly flashed a trace of panic, and she straightened her neck and said, "I'm talking about Qin Shuang, not you. Teacher Ning." "What?" Ning Shi didn't look at the sharp-chinned little assistant, but looked at Qin Shuang, who was closest to her, and asked. Qin Shuang hurriedly whispered, "Brother Shi, it's nothing, it's just that we went to the wrong room. This side, let us leave." The assistant felt that it was reasonable. Seeing this, she immediately interrupted. "What do you mean by going the wrong way? You make it sound so nice. These two people clearly came to fight for the dressing room on purpose. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? It's only been a few days, and you already don't know who you are." Listening to the words of the little assistant, Ning Shi's face did not have any expression, but step by step, she walked in the direction of Yin Yu. At this moment, because Yin Yu saw Ning Shi appear, she subconsciously stood up. Ning Shi stretched out her hand lazily, directly pulled the chair behind Yin Yu to her, and slowly sat down. A pair of long legs wrapped in a high-slit dress slowly crossed, elbows on the back of the chair, tilted her head, glanced at everyone in the room, and said unhurriedly, "This dressing room, I want it." The moment Ning Shi's voice fell, Yin Yu's face suddenly darkened, and her eyes stared at her coldly. The sharp-chinned little assistant immediately said, "Teacher Ning, this is our Yu's dressing room." Ning Shi slightly raised her eyebrows. "Oh, her dressing room? Did you write her name?" The little assistant didn't expect Ning Shi to say the same words as Su Tao, and her face suddenly became extremely ugly. She could scold Su Tao at will, but she didn't dare to use the same attitude to Ning Shi, and could only look aggrieved. "Teacher Ning, this is indeed our Yu's dressing room. If you don't believe me, you can ask Senaris Chun." "All right, I'll ask now." Ning Shi turned to look at Senaris Chun and asked calmly, "Senaris Chun, may I ask, whose dressing room is this?" Senaris Chun wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. After a short silence, he answered almost immediately, This is, of course, Teacher Ning's dressing room. It's your exclusive dressing room." After saying that, he hurriedly winked at the female assistant next to him. "What?" The little assistant's face was full of disbelief. She was about to speak, but she saw the female assistant next to Senaris Chun quickly nod and rush over after receiving the leader's gaze. Soon after, he returned with a white cardboard nameplate in his hand. A few bold black characters were written on the cardboard. Ning Shi's exclusive dressing room. The assistant, Yin Yu, and the others watched helplessly as the female assistant hung the big and conspicuous cardboard on the door. "Did you see that?" Ning Shi's expression didn't change from beginning to end, except for the coldness in her eyes. You guys." The assistant with the sharp chin stared at the scene and saw the director's attitude. His face darkened as he choked on his words. Yin Yu trembled with anger and almost died on the spot. Chapter 1999. That was not the end. Senaris Chun immediately turned to Yin Yu and the others and said, "Ms. Yin, I think you must have gone to the wrong dressing room. Please change to another dressing room immediately." Damn, wrong room. It turned out that they went to the wrong room. They came early in the morning, okay? And this was obviously the dressing room that Yu had been using. However, at this moment, it was obvious that Senaris Chun did not dare to offend Ning Shi because of her high status. It was all intentional. "Please," Senaris Chun urged again. The little assistant didn't dare to say a word at this moment. If Ning Shi didn't care, she could naturally be unscrupulous, but Ning Shi obviously wanted to stand up for Qin Shuang. What else did she dare to say? Yin Yu had never suffered such a great humiliation. Her nails pinched into her palms, and she almost lost her composure on the spot. She used all her self-control to make herself bear it. "Let's go." In the room, the group of people brought by Yin Yu lowered their heads and quickly packed up their things. A group of people walked to the door. When they passed by Su Tao and Qin Shuang, the little assistant with a sharp chin was so angry that she said fiercely, "What are you proud of? A villain intoxicated by success. Aren't you just holding on to Ningxi's thighs?" The little assistant's voice was not low, so Ningxi naturally heard it. Seeing that Su Tao and Qin Shuang's faces were not good, Ningxi's face suddenly became cold. At this moment, Ningxi, who was sitting on Yin Yuyu's seat, suddenly stood up and walked towards Qin Shuang and Su Tao while saying, "Brother Tao, Shuang, follow me to the dressing room upstairs." Ningxi's dressing room was originally arranged upstairs. Although Yin Yuyu's dressing room was already very good, the most luxurious dressing room in the station, which was specially prepared for international bigwigs like Song Lin, was the one upstairs. Qin Shuang nodded obediently. When Yin Yuyu heard the word upstairs, her face became even uglier. At this moment, a staff member from the station rushed over to inform her, panting, "Miss Yin, your program is about to start. Please get ready to go on stage." What? The little assistant's face suddenly changed. But our Yuyu's makeup is only halfway done. Speaking of this, the little assistant didn't care so much and quickly said, "Since Ms. Ning wants to go to another dressing room, we don't need this one. Then let our Yuyu go in and touch up her makeup." After saying that, he was about to rush in. Ningxi smiled and glanced at the words, "Ningxi's exclusive dressing room," on the door. "Did I allow you to use it? Not only does she want to snatch it, but even if she doesn't use it, it won't be your turn." How could Senara's Chin not understand what Ningxi meant? He immediately said, "I'm afraid that's not possible. This is Teacher Ning's exclusive dressing room. Without Teacher Ning's permission, outsiders are not allowed to enter. Please choose another place. The public dressing room is opposite." "What? You actually let our Yuyu go to the public dressing room? Also, why aren't we allowed to use it even though it's empty?" The assistant couldn't believe it. Senara's Chun said expressionlessly, "This room was originally reserved for Teacher Ning. From the beginning, you were the ones who made the mistake. We can't do anything about it. If you can't make it in time, I can only let the later programs take over." This was simply going too far. The junior assistant was furious, but there was no other way. If there were any more delays, the show would really be canceled. In the end, Yin Yuyu and the others had no choice but to squeeze into the overcrowded public makeup room and finish the rest of their makeup under the curious gazes of the other celebrities. Chapter 2000. On the stage, Yin Yuyu was in a hurry and was in a bad mood. She was not in the right state of mind. She sang off several notes in the middle of the song, and one high note broke. As soon as Yin Yuyu returned to the backstage with a gloomy face, she heard whispers coming from inside. "Oh my God, who gave Yin Yuyu the courage to choose this kind of program? Haha, so many celebrities have been involved in lip-syncing scandals recently. At least she can prove that it's not lip-syncing. There's such a thing? Hey, that's not the point, okay? Do any of you know what happened to Yin Yuyu? Why did she squeeze into the public dressing room with us? Doesn't she always have her own dressing room? Haha, I know. I just heard that Su Tao and Qin Shuang went to the wrong dressing room, and Yin Yu used it to find fault with them, saying that they deliberately wanted to snatch the dressing room, and even asked people to drive them out. And then, how did Yin Yu come out in the end?" The female artist who claimed to have inside information said excitedly. Then the goddess Ningxi arrived. "I don't need to tell you what happened next, right? Ningxi is quite loyal, and I heard that she is especially protective of the artists in the same company. Recently, in addition to Qin Shuang, there are several more in the Golden Age. Yin Yuyu is arrogant and domineering all day long because of her high position. This time, she kicked an iron plate. She only knows how to bully those who are lower than her. If you have the ability, go against Ningxi." Hearing those people's words, Yin Yuyu trembled with anger. "Have you said enough?" The voice of the gossip master suddenly came from behind. Everyone was startled, and they all lowered their heads and pretended to be busy as if nothing had happened, for fear of being swept by the storm tail of this person. Until Yin Yuyu left in a rage, the crowd became even more excited to gossip. What do you think En Yu will do this time? Those who offended En Yu in the past were all punished badly. Someone asked, punish Ningxi? Are you kidding? En Yu's position is not at the same level as Ningxi at all. Okay? Look at the attitude of the station. Don't forget that En Yu has Han Zixuan. Didn't these two have the best relationship? Han Zixuan is such an autocratic and selfish person, but she takes good care of En Yu. The person who spoke rolled his eyes. Han Zixuan was suppressed so badly by Ningxi that she can't even take care of herself. I think it's still too early to decide the winner. Golden Era's strength and Han Zixuan's popularity are right there. They still have a chance. At night, in a high-class club, at that moment, Han Zixuan and Ning Shuo were sitting opposite each other at a table in the pavilion. Han Zixuan's face was full of anger and grievance. Vice President Ning, when you were here, you always took care of me and promoted me. But since you left, I really can't stay in the company anymore. When will you come back? Han Zixuan asked the question that concerned her the most. Ever since Su Yin took over the company, she had been under more and more pressure. She really couldn't sit still anymore, so she asked Ning Shuo out in private. Ning Shuo listened to Han Zixuan's crying, and her face was full of helplessness. I'm very sorry, Zixuan. I don't have any power in my hands now. I'm afraid I really can't help you. Han Zixuan's expression immediately changed. Vice President Ning, I really don't understand. Why did you suddenly leave the company? Chapter 2001. A trace of viciousness flashed across Ning Shuo's eyes, but her face was weak and helpless. She smiled bitterly and shook her head. Why would I leave if I could? I've been in Starlight for so long. Starlight is like my second home. You're like my sister. I want to stay in the company too, but halfway through her words, Ning Shu suddenly sighed, and the smile on her face became more and more bitter. Forget it. It's fine. I've left. It's useless to say anything now. I'm just dragging you into this. Because of me, Ning Shu suddenly shut her mouth and pretended to look at Han Zixuan in surprise, as if she had accidentally said something wrong. Han Zixuan was not a fool. She could obviously tell that Ning Shuo had something to say, and it was related to her. Haven't you let it go? She quickly reached out to hold Ning Shuo's hand and said, Vice President Ning, what happened? I was raised by you. Don't tell me you don't even trust me? Ning Shuo shook her head bitterly. Zixuan, you're like my sister. How can I not trust you? It's just that things are different now. No matter what happened in the past, I could protect you, but now I don't want to tell you because I'm afraid of dragging you into this. After all, I can't even protect myself now. Can't protect yourself? Ning Shuo's words shocked Han Zixuan. Ning Shuo was now the young mistress of the Su family. With her identity and status, who could threaten her? Subconsciously, Ning Shi's delicate face suddenly flashed across Han Zixuan's mind. Wasn't it because Ning Shi pressured Ning Shuo to quit the film industry? Could it be? Han Zixuan looked at Ning Shuo with some uncertainty. After hesitating for a while, she whispered, Is it Ning Shi? When Han Zixuan said Ning Shi's name, Ning Shuo's shoulders obviously trembled. She pretended to be aggrieved and lowered her head to hide the look in her eyes. But it was obvious that she had suffered a great grievance and was enduring it silently. Ning Shi again? Han Zixuan looked at Ning Shuo's reaction. It was obviously related to Ning Shi. That bitch is torturing you again? You were at the peak of the film industry. If it weren't for her, you wouldn't have left the stage. Now that you've retreated, she still won't let you off. She's so shameless. Han Zixuan said angrily, not because she felt wrong for Ning Shui, but because her enemy happened to be Ning Shi. This anger was quite real. Ning Shuo secretly observed Han Zixuan's reaction. Naturally, she knew what Han Zixuan was thinking, but she did not show it on her face. She raised her head with a bitter smile and glanced at Han Zixuan with a lonely and helpless gaze. Her hands subconsciously touched her flat stomach. It's not Ningxi's fault. It's my own problem. Not long ago, I found out that I was pregnant. Su Yin was afraid that I would have to work too hard, so he asked me to temporarily retire from Starlight to focus on my pregnancy. Ning Shuilua paused. There was a hint of loneliness in her voice. You're pregnant? Han Zishuan's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly pretended to be pleasantly surprised and said, Congratulations, Vice President Ning. You're really lucky. President Su loves you so much, and now that you have a child, President Su will definitely treat you like a treasure and treat you well. It's really enviable. Chapter 2002. Ning Shui's heart trembled as she landed on the ground. Her face was full of tenderness. I'm very happy that the child came so suddenly, but Su Yin said that Starlight was too busy to come back recently. Busy? Han Zishuan was slightly stunned. Because of Ning Shi's return, the artists of Starlight were under a lot of pressure during this period. Compared with the peak period in the past, there was no comparison at all. Su Yin was the largest shareholder of Starlight. He didn't need to do ordinary things. How could he be so busy that he didn't have time to take care of his pregnant wife? Speaking of which, Su Yan's only action in the company during this period was probably a shocking speculation suddenly formed in Han Zishuan's mind. She pretended to be calm and looked at Ning Shua, asking tentatively, Vice President Ning, do you know that President Su wants to poach Ning Shi to Starlight? There was a flash of jealousy in Ning Shuilua's eyes, but she suddenly looked shocked. She suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Han Zishuan in disbelief. What? He wants to poach Ning Shi to Starlight? Ning Shuilua's reaction startled Han Zishuan. Vice President Ning, don't you know? I also think it's strange. Why would President Su want to poach Ning Shi to Starlight Entertainment? Ning Shi was kicked out of Starlight Entertainment in the past. Now you're spending a lot of money to poach her back. If others find out, won't they laugh at Starlight Entertainment for lacking talents? Ning Shuilua's face darkened. She lowered her head, and there was a bitter taste in her mouth. Why is she still unwilling to let Su Yin go? Vice President Ning Shi, and President Su. Han Zishuan was shocked. Ning Shuilua seemed to realize that she had let the cat out of the bag. She hurriedly raised her hand to cover her mouth and looked at Han Zishuan miserably. No, nothing. Ning Shi just met Su Yin a long time ago. Although Ning Shi loved Su Yin, that was a long time ago. Now, they have nothing to do with each other. They don't have anything to do with each other. Ning Shuilua's voice became lower and lower. The grievance and bitterness in her voice made people feel sorry for her. Han Zishuan had never expected that the truth would be like this. Ning Shi and Su Yin had known each other for a long time, and Ning Shi had pursued Su Yin before. This series of news shocked Han Zishuan. She then thought of Su Yan's frequent attempts to poach Ning Shi during this period of time, and then thought of how Ning Shuo was pregnant, but Su Yin still did not return. Ning Shi is too much. You are pregnant. She actually tried to seduce CEO Su with these foxy tricks. Was she even human? Wasn't it enough that she forced you to retreat from the entertainment industry? Now she even wants to interfere in your relationship with President Su. Han Zishuan pretended to be angry, but she was already overjoyed. All right, Ning Shi, I thought you had some great ability, but in the end, you're just a shameless bitch. Subconsciously, Han Zishuan sneaked a peek at the gap of the sofa. Under the light, a cold light flashed. It was the camera that she had prepared in advance. She wanted to get some information from Ning Shuilua, but she did not expect that the news would be so explosive. Ning Shuilua raised her head with tears in her eyes. She bit her lip and shook her head at Han Zishuan. No, it's not like this. Su Yin, he wouldn't do this to me. He's really busy. Not because of Ning Shi. Ning Shuilua's voice was bitter and sounded like she was about to cry. Her expression hid great grievance, but she could only bear it silently. As Han Zishuan comforted Ning Shuilua, who was out of control, she secretly narrowed her eyes. A vicious cold light flashed in her eyes. Ning Shi, I don't believe that you won't die this time. Ning Shuilua, who was being comforted by Han Zishuan, lowered her head to hide the viciousness in her eyes. Chapter 2003. After comforting Ning Shuo, Han Zishuan personally sent her out of the clubhouse. She turned around and immediately took out the camera hidden in the gap of the sofa. Under the flickering light, Han Zixuan watched all the footage she had just recorded. As Ning Shilua's slightly crying voice came from the video, Han Zixuan's eyes were filled with malice. Ning Shi, I want to see what you can do this time. The next morning, the phone rang and broke the silence of the morning. Ning Shi picked up the noisy phone and looked at the name of Su Tao on it. She mumbled and poked her head out of Lu Tingxiao's warm arms. She answered the phone with one hand and said lazily, "Brother Tao, what's the matter so early in the morning?" Before Ning Shi finished her words, Su Tao on the other side of the phone instantly exploded. "My queen, go to Weibo and have a look. It's all over the internet." Weibo? Ning Shi was confused by Su Tao's roar. She took the phone and walked to the computer, opened it, and logged in her Weibo. As soon as she logged in, a series of notifications almost blew up the computer. On the hot search list of Weibo, the words "Movie Queen Ning, she seduced a married man" were on the top. Who the hell did I seduce this time? Ning Shi stared at the unbelievable words. This kind of rumor seemed to have never stopped since she started her career. Ning Shi thought it was the same as before. Someone was making groundless accusations against her. However, Su Tao on the other side of the phone was so nervous that he almost roared. "Ning Shi, this time it's a big deal. Go and have a look. The video has been posted on the internet." Liang Feixing and I started to suppress the news as soon as we saw it, but it didn't work at all. It's obvious that someone is behind it. Now the hot search is getting more and more popular. We can't suppress it anymore. Take a look at the video and come to the company as soon as possible. Let's discuss how to suppress this matter. Su Tao didn't even have time to take a breath. It could be seen that the situation was serious. There was a video? What video was it? Ning Shi frowned slightly and followed Su Tao's words to click on the hot search. Under the hot search terms, she saw a video with an eye-catching title on the pinnacle of the Weibo post. Ning Shi clicked on the video and frowned. In the video, Han Zixuan and Ning Shilua's faces were clearly shown. The two of them seemed to be chatting in a club. At first, he didn't think anything was wrong with Ning Shi, but the more he looked at her, the more he felt something was wrong. When Han Zixuan mentioned Ning Shi in the video, Ning Shilua felt wronged and cried secretly. Her words were full of sadness and loneliness, and she even directly exposed the ambiguous past between Ning Shi and Su Yin many years ago while sobbing. On this Weibo post, there was a long paragraph of incisive words that stirred people's hearts. The famous movie star Ning, she was shameless to such an extent. She seduced a married man, completely disregarding the fact that his wife was pregnant, causing the husband to neglect his pregnant wife, causing the pregnant woman to be mentally and physically exhausted. She was simply shameless. She did not mention the names of the couple who were involved. However, as long as one was not blind, they would be able to recognize at a glance that the crying woman in the video was Ning Shiluo, who had disappeared for a long time. At that moment, Weibo was in an uproar. Under the pinned Weibo post, the number of comments went up to hundreds of thousands overnight. Chapter 2004. I didn't expect Ning Shi to be such a woman. Ning Shiluo has been out of the entertainment industry for a long time, but she still won't let her go. Ning Shiluo was forced out of the entertainment industry by Ning Shi's dirty tricks. Now that I think about it, Ning Shiluo was really wronged. She didn't do anything bad. It wasn't her fault that she was switched at the hospital. But in the end, she was forced to leave the entertainment industry because of Ning Shi. Now, I think about it. The entertainment industry is really terrible. Ning Shi's a vixen. She doesn't look like a good person. She has been involved in many scandals. Now, she is even more shameless. She even seduced Ning Shiluo's husband. Ning Shiluo was persecuted and ruined. Now it is so difficult for her to be a woman who has nothing to do with the world. She has to bear the pain of pregnancy for 10 months, and now she's being poached by someone. Not long ago, I heard that Starlight wanted to poach Ning Shi. If I remember correctly, Su Yan's shares have been transferred to Ning Shiluo. Ning Shiluo is the vice president of the company. But not long ago, Ning Shiluo was suddenly pushed out of the company and replaced by Su Yan. Now Su Yan wants to poach Ning Shi. TSK, it's really scary. Scumbag and bitch. Rows of abusive words covered the entire comment section at a speed visible to the naked eye. Under the trending words, all kinds of abuse and revelations emerged one after another. Ningxi's fans were also in an uproar. How could they believe that she would do such a thing? Looking at the abuse on the internet, the true fans who supported brother, she immediately rolled up their sleeves and began to fight. In just one morning, the entire Weibo was torn into a battlefield by the abusive people and the true fans. Even though the true fans were fighting fiercely, they still couldn't stop the attacks from the internet water army and the onlookers who didn't know the truth. In the blink of an eye, Ningxi out of the entertainment industry rose to the second hot search list. Ningxi looked at the rows of abuse and the true fans' protection on the screen, and her expression suddenly became a little strange. She and Suyin? Lu Tingxiao walked behind Ningxi. His deep eyes swept over the obscene words on the computer, and he raised his hand to close the laptop. Dirty eyes. Sweetheart, did I wake you? Ningxi directly reached out to support the screen. First, she hooked her arms around Lu Tingxiao's neck and gave him a good morning kiss. Then she casually hooked her lips and said, I've seen all kinds of storms. This is nothing to me. Lu Tingxiao did not comment, but retracted his hand. Ningxi leaned back slightly, her body leaning against Lu Tingxiao's long legs. She raised her hand and pointed at a comment that was surviving in the midst of a group of abusive comments. Bullshit. Would our brother she fall for that coward Suyin? Don't think that you're invincible just because you have some money. Do you really think that everyone loves your money? Ning Shuiluo's acting is really terrible. No wonder she couldn't survive in the film and television industry. What else can a woman who occupies a man's home do other than shed a few crocodile tears to gain sympathy? If you're jealous of my brother, just say it. You're really going all out to smear your own husband. Look, this must be my own fan. This fighting power, this sharpness. TSK, it's awesome. Not only was Ningxi not angry because of the hot search, but she even admired the fighting power of her own fans with their bare hands. Chapter 2005. Ningxi's diehard fans, are you deaf? She said it herself that Ningxi has always been in love with Su Yin and plotted against him. If there wasn't something unspeakable between the two of them, why would Su Yin suddenly kick his wife out of the company and poach Ningxi as soon as he took power? Who's deaf? I think some people are not only deaf, but they're also die-hard. Ning Shuo had said it herself that it was because she was pregnant that Su Yin asked her to retire from Starlight to let her rest in peace. Han Zishuan was the one who said the whole poaching thing. How do you know that Han Zishuan was deliberately provoking Ning Shuo to help her deal with Ningxi? Our brother, she is doing fine in Shangshi and has been busy with work recently. Han Zishuan has been suppressed so badly by our brother She can't play with him on the surface, so she's starting to play tricks behind his back. Otherwise, why would she secretly record her meeting with Ning Shuo? She's obviously prepared. How can we believe someone like her? Our brother, she has been slandered ever since he debuted. He's seen too many of these despicable tactics. In a high-end villa in the capital, Han Zishuan's eyes were filled with coldness and mockery as she read the doubtful comments on the internet. They're still trying to clear their name at this point. Zhang Anru said smugly, they're dead meat this time. Ning, she definitely doesn't know that we have something even more shocking in our hands. Zishuan, let's send the evidence out now. Let's see what else they can say when the evidence is sent out. Han Zishuan curled her lips and brushed her nails. She said slowly, what's the rush? Let them jump around a little longer. The more they protect Ningxi now, the more disappointed they'll be when they find out the truth. She was really lucky this time. Not only did she get Ningxi's secret from Ning Shuo, but she also got a video that could destroy Ningxi eternally. Zhang Anru nodded excitedly. Yes, when the time comes, all these fans will turn against her. It's so satisfying to think about how she'll be scolded by her own fans. That night, the fight between the two sides entered a white-hot stage. The internet water army was overwhelming. Although Ningxi's fans were not as many as the internet water army, their fighting capacity was very high. In the evening, they even faintly surpassed Ning Shi's fans. At this moment, Han Zishuan released another Weibo post. Originally, I just couldn't stand watching someone's shamelessness and didn't want innocent people to get hurt. I didn't expect it to cause so many malicious speculations. Now, even passers-by can't stand someone's disgusting table manners. I just received an anonymous email. Please judge for yourselves what the truth is. This Weibo post was accompanied by a video. In the video, it was a certain luxurious hotel in the imperial capital. Not far away, the logo of YLD could be vaguely seen. The banquet hall was filled with fragrant clothes, and people were toasting each other. It seemed like they were at YLD's fashion banquet. Then, the scene quickly switched to the small garden behind the banquet hall. A woman was sitting on a swing, and a man was standing beside her. Although it was nighttime and the lighting was dim, the angle of the video clearly showed their faces. And these two people were the male and female leads of the scandal, Ning Shi and Su Yan. The two seemed to be having a conversation. Su Yan, Xiaoxi, Su Yan, Xiaoxi, I'm calling you for business this time. Ning Shi, oh, business? Su Yan, Xiaoxi, come to Starlight. Chapter 2006. The short 10-second video had just been released, and it immediately set off a monstrous wave on the internet. Everyone was shocked. Ning Xiuoluo and Han Zishuan's fans were like hungry wolves that had not eaten for a few days. They pounced on them with bloodshot eyes. Fuck. They are indeed a pair of adulterers. Ning Shi's diehard fans. What else do you have to say? The evidence is irrefutable. Who dares to say that our Zishuan is creating trouble? Seducing a married man, bewitching him into taking away all the power from his wife, poaching her, leaving a pregnant woman alone at home in the middle of the night. Then the two of them hid in the small garden to have a private rendezvous. How shameless. Zishuan was just defending her friend, but Ning Shi's diehard fans are attacking her like crazy. Fortunately, justice will never be absent. I thought Zheng Anru's words were a bit harsh, but now I think it was too light. It's an insult to Zishuan to compare her with her. Didn't she get to the top with her face and body? It's just that she hit it so well that she deceived everyone. Now the truth is finally out. Ning Shi's diehard fans, why aren't you saying anything? Come on. At Shengshi Entertainment, Liang Feixing and Su Tao were paying close attention to the situation on the internet. Su Tao sneered. Tut, Han Zishuan still has a backup plan. Liang Feixing squinted at him. Needless to say, otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to use her real body. Su Tao yawned and said in a bored tone, boring. Are we going to send the information on our side? Liang Feixing looked at Ning Shi, who was sitting on the sofa opposite him. Ning Shi, what do you think? Ning Shi looked away from the computer screen, tilted her head with one hand, and tapped the armrest with the other. Of course we will post a video, but it won't be that easy. When she said the last sentence, a cold gleam flashed across Ning Shi's eyes. Su Tao hurriedly asked, Your Majesty, what do you mean? Ning Shi's fingers stopped moving. She looked at Su Tao and said word by word, clean house. She had to start all over again when she had just woken up, and Golden Era was in a terrible state. She had no choice but to fight passively. But now, it was time to take care of Han Zishuan. Su Tao's eyes lit up when he heard the domineering words. Your Majesty Queen is mighty and domineering. You're right. Do you think it's that easy to get away with slandering someone? Liang Feixing muttered to himself. I've been secretly investigating Han Zishuan recently, but she's indeed very cautious. I haven't found any useful information after so long. Otherwise, he would have gotten rid of her long ago. How could he let her continue to jump around here? Su Tao nodded in agreement. That's true. There are too many scandals about Han Zishuan, but there's no evidence. It's useless to say anything. Ning Shi's gaze fell on Su Tao, and she asked, Brother Tao, have you forgotten about Yin Yu? Su Tao was puzzled. Yin Yu? What did this have to do with Yin Yu? With Han Zishuan's personality, why would she take such good care of Yin Yu after she changed jobs? Ning Shi asked. Chapter 2007. Su Tao's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. This is indeed strange. They weren't familiar with each other when they were at Golden Era. After they moved to Starlight, not only did Han Zixuan suppress the artist from Starlight, she also kept a close eye on the artist who jumped over from Golden Era. She didn't allow anyone to surpass her position. Yin Yu is also an A-lister like her, so she's a big threat to her. Their relationship should be like fire and water. But on the surface, Han Zixuan and Yin Yu are very close. Han Zixuan often pulls strings for Yin Yu and even attends important events with her. Liang Feixing also reacted. This does not make sense. I remember there was once when Yin Yu directly snatched a role from Han Zixuan. Han Zixuan didn't say anything about it. Afterward, she even told the media that she was the one who recommended the role to Yin Yu. But everyone in the industry knows that Han Zixuan has been eyeing the role for a long time. Speaking of this, Su Tao suddenly jumped up in excitement. Is it possible that Yin Yu has something on Han Zixuan? Very likely. Liang Feixing nodded. Su Tao looked at Ning Shi with admiration. Queen, you're so awesome. Why didn't I think of that? Ning Shi chuckled. I'm just a bystander, and it's just a guess. I'll have to trouble Brother Tao for the rest. Su Tao immediately said, Queen, don't worry. I'll take care of it. Liang Feixing sighed and said, I've fallen into the same mindset before. I've always been thinking about investigating Han Zixuan's background and neglected other things. I think Ning Shi's guess is right. Yin Yu has something very important in her hands. It's enough to make Han Zixuan lose her career in the entertainment industry. But Yin Yu will never give it to us. Su Tao raised his eyebrows and said confidently, Don't worry about it. It's just a small case. Liang Feixing raised his eyebrows. Okay, I forgot that you're here. Ning Shi smiled. Then I'll wait for your good news, Brother Tao. Late at night, in a private room of a restaurant, Yin Yu threw her bag on the table beside her with a paw sound. She crossed her arms and looked at the man in front of her impatiently. Say it. Why did you call me here? Su Tao's attitude was attentive, but there was a hint of nervousness in his eyes. I'm sorry to disturb you so late at night. I really have something urgent to attend to. Yin Yu snorted. If it's because of Ning Shi, you'd better give up. Ning, she was going to die this time. Yin Yu was filled with anger at the thought of the humiliation she had suffered at the Imperial Capital TV station that day. Naturally, she would not let go of such a great opportunity to mock her. This was also the reason why she came over when Su Tao asked her out. Of course, she wanted to take a good look at Su Tao's dejected appearance. TSK, I really pity Brother Tao. He had just hugged onto a golden thigh, but now he has become a pile of mud. Huh. Su Tao's expression was very ugly and distressed. After a moment of silence, he said meaningfully, You, it doesn't matter what happens to me. Actually, the one who loses the most is you. Yin Yu was instantly displeased. She snorted coldly. What nonsense are you talking about? What do I have to lose? Su Tao immediately revealed an extremely surprised look, don't you know? Chapter 2008. Know what? Yin Yu sneered. Should you know that the thigh you've been hugging is about to fall? Or are you going to go back to the way you were in the past, bringing a bunch of small-time artists around all day? Su Tao looked at Yin Yu, who was full of mockery, but he was not angry at all. He only shook his head. You can mock me all you want. I'm here today not because of Ning Shi, but because of you. Because of me? Yin Yu chuckled and looked at Su Tao with an incredulous look. Then I really have to thank you for your kindness. But instead of worrying about me, why don't you think about how to clean up Ning Shi's mess? Now that Ning Shi is involved in this matter, I'm afraid that no matter how powerful Golden Era is, there's nothing you can do. Hurry up and think of someone to support her, or else she'll end up on the streets again after she falls. Su Tao did not show any signs of anger in the face of Yin Yu's constant mockery. He only smiled bitterly. Ning Shi, this matter isn't that easy to solve. I came to find you today because I remember the time when you were in Golden Era. When you first came to Golden Era, I could tell that you had the potential to become famous. Although I'm very unhappy that you've jumped ship to Starlight, but as long as you have a good future, it's fine. Hee hee, Su Tao, there's no point in playing the emotional card with me now, right? And Yu did not look happy at all. Su Tao smiled bitterly. I've been in a bad mood for the past few days, so I wanted to talk to someone. Even though you're no longer in Golden Era, we're still colleagues. Just take it that you're pitying me and talking to me. Ing Yu frowned slightly. She felt that Su Tao was acting weird today, but when she thought of how Su Tao hugged Ningxi's thigh and swaggered around, she did not mind admiring Su Tao's downfall. All right, I Ing Yu am not an ingrate. Say what you want to say. A gratified smile appeared on Su Tao's face, but a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. How could he not know that Ing Yu was prepared to see him make a fool of himself? Yu, you're very talented. Golden Era chose you because they wanted you to be their #1 sister. But you're doing well in Starlight too. Even though Han Zixuan is above you, it's still good enough. Su Tao said casually, but when these words entered Ing Yu's ears, it sounded particularly sarcastic. When Ing Yu chose to jump ship to Starlight, she had hoped that Starlight would support her and make her the big sister Starlight. However, who would have thought that Han Zixuan would firmly suppress her, making it difficult for Ing Yu to take another step forward in Starlight? Some time ago, Ningxi finally came back and suppressed Han Zixuan's limelight, causing Han Zixuan's popularity to plummet. Starshine was also prepared to transfer resources to support Ing Yu to become the #1 sister of Starshine. But Ing Yu suddenly frowned. The reason why Starlight wanted to support her was because Han Zixuan was suppressed by Ningxi. However, once Ningxi was brought down by the matter of being a mistress, no one would be able to suppress Han Zixuan's limelight anymore. Before this, Ing Yu was happy that Ningxi was about to fall. But now, she suddenly thought of her own situation, and she could not smile anymore. Chapter 2009. If Ningxi didn't fall, Han Zixuan wouldn't have a chance to make a name for herself. Starlight would inevitably shift its resources to Ing Yu. But if Ningxi fell, although Ing Yu resented Ningxi in this way, Han Zixuan was bound to make a comeback. At that time, Ing Yu would no longer be the top sister of Starlight. Ing Yu didn't realize this problem at first, but after hearing Su Tao's words, she suddenly felt that she was overjoyed. If she didn't have Han Zixuan's secret, she would have been the first one to be attacked. Even so, she knew very well that this secret could only prevent Han Zixuan from punishing her. She was trembling with fear every day in Starlight, wagging her tail like a dog, hoping that Han Zixuan would give her some pitiful resources. After all, she was also an artist of Starlight. If the secret was exposed, Han Zixuan would be finished, but so would she. If Starlight found out that she was secretly messing around with an artist from the same company, she would definitely be blacklisted. Han Zixuan naturally knew this. She knew that Ing Yu wouldn't dare to release this news, so they could only maintain a delicate balance. Ningxi's appearance had given her a glimmer of hope, but now that Ningxi had fallen, everything was back to square one. Moreover, Han Zixuan would only be more unscrupulous in the future, so the effect of this secret would only become weaker. On the contrary, when Ningxi, her biggest enemy, was eliminated, Han Zixuan would probably see her as a thorn in her side and get rid of her as soon as possible, seeing that Ing Yu was thinking about something and looking worse and worse. Su Tao pretended to sigh casually and said, "Alas, Ningxi is going to have a hard time." Han Zixuan was suppressed by Ningxi and almost couldn't stand it anymore. Now that Ningxi has fallen, she will be more popular. At the end of the day, if there's really someone who's going to rise, I'd rather it be you. After all, when you rise in the future, you're someone I've managed before, so I'll look better. Ing Yu's expression turned uglier. If Ningxi fell, how could she rise again in Starlight? She knew Han Zixuan's personality very well. In a short span of half a year since Han Zixuan had joined the company, whether it was the old artists from Starlight Entertainment or those from Golden Era, as long as they tried to steal the limelight from her, they would all be crushed by her. Because of Ningxi's comeback, Han Zixuan had been suppressed, and the senior management of Starlight Entertainment had revealed that they wanted to promote her to be the top sister of Starlight Entertainment. It was impossible that Han Zixuan didn't know this news. She must have hated her a long time ago. If Han Zixuan became popular again, given Han Zixuan's character, she would give her a lot of trouble. Su Tao secretly saw the change in Yin Yuyu's expression, and a smile rose from the bottom of his heart. However, he still wore a disappointed expression on his face, as if he was very lonely. He sighed. Poor Qin Shuang. She completely relied on Ning Shi to rise to the top. Now that Ning Shi is finished, I'm afraid she won't be able to keep it. Xiao Rou has also disappeared. Among the people I've managed, you're the only one who's still fine. Sometimes I think that maybe it was right for you to leave Golden Era. You can only blame me for being useless and not being able to get the best resources for you. If it were now, I would definitely be able to get the same resources for you as Ning Shi. I sigh. I'm talking nonsense again. It's all my fault. Just pretend that you didn't hear anything. The same resources as Ning Shi. Yin Yuyu's eyes suddenly lit up at this moment. Chapter 2010. The current Golden Era was different from before. Even if Ning Shi fell, Golden Era's current resources would not disappear. If she exposed that weakness and caused Han Zixuan to fall, even if Starlight wanted to ban her, if she could return to Golden Era, then she would not have to worry about anything. One should know that Ning Shi's current resources were a few levels higher than Han Zixuan's when Starlight was at its peak. With Ning Shi's fall, Golden Era would be without a leader. With her talent, as long as she returned, no one in Golden Era could compare to her. In order to avoid being suppressed by Starlight, Golden Era would definitely raise a new leader in the shortest time possible, and no one was more suitable than her. One by one, Yin Yuyu's longing kept appearing in her mind. Looking at Su Tao, who was sighing in front of her, a hint of greed flashed in her eyes, and a gentle smile suddenly appeared on her exquisitely made-up face. Brother Tao, it's not been easy for you during this period. I've always remembered how good you were to me in Golden Era. I'm only where I am today because of Golden Era's nurturing. I won't forget these things. Although we're not in the same company now, we can still keep in touch in the future. Our relationship is still there. Su Tao's heart was full of disdain, but there was a smile on his face. Yu, I'm satisfied with your words. It's getting late. You should go back first. Let's keep in touch in the future. Yin Yu confided in Su Tao again, then pretended to leave reluctantly. After returning, Yin Yu threw down her bag and rushed to the attic on the top floor of the villa. After locking the door with a bang, Yin Yu anxiously rummaged through the drawers and cabinets, and finally took out a safe from a secret compartment. Entering the password, Yin Yu took out a small silver USB flash drive from the safe. Yin Yu stared at the USB flash drive, the expression in her eyes changing. After a moment of hesitation, she held the USB flash drive tightly in her hand, her gaze becoming more and more sinister. Han Zixuan, you've been above me for so long. It's time to give up. On the other side, Su Tao hummed a song, swinging his car keys as he returned to the apartment. He took a refreshing shower, then wandered to the study room and turned on his computer. Because of the second video posted by Han Zixuan, the scolding of Ning, she had completely drowned out all other voices. Mistresses always attracted hatred, especially when Ning Xiluo was pregnant. In addition, Ning Xiluo's retirement from acting had something to do with Ning Shi. The discussion on the internet had become one-sided. A group of passers-by who didn't know the truth also joined the battle because of Ning Xiluo's weak image. Without strong evidence, it would be difficult for Ning Shi to reverse the situation. While Su Tao was leisurely browsing through the comments, he suddenly received a notification on the bottom right corner of his computer. Su Tao moved his mouse and clicked on it. After reading the content of the email, Su Tao's eyes suddenly lit up and the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up. He thought that the earliest Yin Yu would make a move was the next morning. Who would have thought that he would be so impatient? It seemed that Yin Yu's hatred for Han Zixuan was no less than her hatred for Ning Shi. She must have been suppressed by Han Zixuan and Starlight. Actually, whether Yin Yu would take the bait or not depended on whether the bait was big enough. The bait he threw out this time was definitely big enough. There were 2 videos in the email. One was in the office, and the other one was in the nanny van. The degree of explosiveness was enough to make an experienced driver like him gasp in amazement. Gee, you really didn't let him down. Chapter 2011. Overnight, Han Zixuan's scandal became the hottest news on the major websites, magazines, and newspapers. In just one day, Ningxi's involvement in the gossip between Su Yin and Ning Xiuo was like an atomic bomb, shocking the whole entertainment circle. Hey, have you heard about Ningxi? This was practically the first sentence that everyone in the circle would say when they met and greeted each other. Of course I have. Is there anyone who doesn't know about it? I didn't expect that Ningxi and Su Yin would have such a relationship. I felt sorry for and admired Ningxi, but it turns out that she is not a good person. I thought she got to where she is today by herself. She's just a prostitute. Don't insult a prostitute. She coveted someone else's boyfriend and even asked Su Yin to kick his wife out of the company to make way for her. Besides, she knew Ning Xiuo was pregnant. This kind of person is disgusting. Ningxi just got the role of the leading actress in The Killer. It's already halfway through the shooting. I don't think she can keep her leading actress role. Are you kidding? Leading actress? Does she still want to stay in the entertainment circle after this? She can forget about coming back in this life. By the way, will Han Zixuan make a comeback after Ningxi falls? Who can she blame? She can only blame Ningxi for her bad character and letting others seize the opportunity. Gee, the entertainment circle is going to change again. At a charity banquet, everyone was gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and chatting. Just as they were gossiping enthusiastically, someone suddenly looked towards the door in excitement. Look, Han Zixuan, accompanied by her agent. Han Zixuan walked into the banquet hall in an elegant champagne-colored mermaid dress. Han Zixuan's appearance immediately attracted a large number of reporters. Everyone carried their weapons and surrounded Han Zixuan in an instant. A reporter asked, Zixuan, what do you think about Ningxi seducing a married woman? A reporter asked, Zixuan, why did you choose to expose this scandal? Facing the reporter's question, Han Zixuan paused for a moment, and a faint disdain appeared on her exquisitely made-up face. I have nothing to do with what happened to Ningxi. However, Miss Ningxiuo is both my superior and my friend. What I hate the most in my life is a third party who destroys other people's families. This time, I just couldn't stand it anymore. That's why I stepped forward. Reporter, Zixuan, can you tell us about Miss Ningxiuo's situation? She's pregnant now. Will this news affect her fetus in any way? Han Zixuan didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, I believe this is a fatal blow to any woman. I only hope that, for the sake of the child, someone will stop before going too far and stop hurting innocent people. Zixuan, Han Zixuan did not continue to answer the latter questions and quickly entered the banquet hall under the escort of the bodyguards. Ying Yu followed closely behind Han Zixuan and stood not far away. She quietly watched as Han Zixuan was surrounded by a crowd of reporters. She listened to her righteous words and sneered in her heart. Heh, continue to pretend. I'm afraid you won't pretend anymore. Chapter 2012. As soon as Han Zixuan entered the banquet hall, she was immediately surrounded by a large circle of artistes who chatted with her warmly and warmly. After all, everyone knew that once Ningxi fell, the entertainment industry would become Han Zixuan's again. Zixuan, what you've done this time is simply too satisfying. I knew that Ningxi was not a decent person, but she's even more disgusting than we thought. If Zixuan hadn't stood up for us, who knows how long we would have been deceived by her. Han Zixuan was surrounded by a group of people talking at once. Facing everyone's compliments, she said with an aloof expression, everyone has their own ambitions. There's nothing that some people won't do in order to climb up. But what others do has nothing to do with me. I have my own principles and bottom line. Zixuan, how can you compare with that kind of person? No matter how high she climbs, she will be despised by others if she climbs up by such dirty means. The culture of the entertainment industry is led astray by her. Just then, a young artiste looked around and said excitedly, "By the way, I heard that Ning, she is also on the invitation list for tonight's charity banquet. Why haven't I seen her?" The people next to him immediately sneered. How dare she show up after such a scandal? Isn't she afraid of being drowned by everyone's saliva? She must be hiding at home and not daring to show up. Besides, our Zixuan is also here today. She must be hiding far away. While they were mocking each other, there was a sudden uproar at the entrance of the banquet hall. Everyone subconsciously looked in the direction of the entrance. In the next second, a stunning figure appeared under the flashes of the media. When the people around Han Zixuan saw the figure, they couldn't help but gasp. Ning Shi, who was wearing a black evening gown, stood alone on the red carpet. Her flawless face attracted everyone's attention. Countless cameras were fixed on her at this moment, greedily capturing the alluring beauty of her every movement. The pure black set off her stunning face, like the black night sky set off thousands of stars, which was dazzling. To everyone's surprise, Ning Shi was not absent. Instead, she arrived on time. She didn't even look as miserable and haggard as they had imagined. As soon as she appeared on the red carpet, she immediately won the hearts of all the female artists present. Han Zixuan looked at the reporters who were crazily taking photos of Ning Shi. She looked at Ning Shi's radiant face on the red carpet. Her eyes were filled with crazy jealousy. The female artists around Han Zixuan took a long time to come back to their senses. Other than surprise, all of them had the same look in their eyes as Han Zixuan. "Ning, it's actually Ning Shi. Oh my God, it really was her. How could she still have the cheek to come? If it were me, I might as well just bang my head against the wall and die. Bitches are so shameless. Is there anything she can't do?" Hearing the ridicule around her and thinking of Ning Shi's future, Han Zixuan calmed down again. She watched calmly as Ning Shi entered the venue and was immediately surrounded by a group of crazy reporters. "Miss Ning Shi, do you have any explanation for the recent news about you on the internet? As for what Miss Ning Shula said, is it true that you have always admired Mr. Su and pestered him? Is it true that you and Mr. Su had a late-night tryst in the video? Did you really intervene in the marriage between Mr. Su and Miss Ning Shula?" Chapter 2013. Facing the ugly questions and the gloating eyes of the people around her, Ning Shi remained calm. "Today is a charity party, not my personal press conference. If you have any questions, I will answer them one by one after the meeting. Now, please don't disturb the order of the event. Thank you." Hearing Ning Shi's answer, the people around were inevitably disappointed. However, Ning Shi's answer was watertight and the reporters couldn't refute it, so they had to be patient for the time being. Anyway, Ning Shi had promised to be interviewed after the event and give them an explanation. This time, they finally got Ning Shi, and they would never let go of this opportunity. Seeing that Ning Shi actually dodged the question, the women around Han Zixuan sneered in a low voice. "She's still so stubborn. I'd like to see what she will say after the event is over. The evidence is irrefutable. She can't change the fact that she is a mistress who ruined a family and bullied a pregnant woman." Good evening, distinguished guests. The annual charity dinner now officially begins. Next, it's the auction that everyone is most looking forward to. Then, with the host's opening remarks, the auction of the charity dinner soon began. In the past, this was the most lively part of the event, but today, everyone's attention was focused on one person. In the first row, Ning Shi listened attentively to the auctioneer's explanation. From time to time, she discussed with the agent next to her and occasionally raised a sign to bid. She was so calm that she didn't look like someone who had just been involved in such a big storm and would be banned from the entertainment industry after tonight. In the corner, Han Zixuan glanced at Ning Shi from the corner of her eyes and frowned slightly. Does she have a backup plan? Otherwise, how could she be so calm at this time? Zhang Anru sneered and said, "How is that possible?" Ning Shui said these words herself, and there's a video as evidence. If she really had a way, she would have jumped out long ago. Why would she wait until now? In my experience, her appearance today is Su Tao's last move. Su Tao must not have given up and wants to test the media's reaction. It's whimsical. Does she really think that she, a small agent, can reverse the situation? Cheating, taking drugs, and being involved in politics. As long as you're involved in any of these three things, you will die. There is absolutely no chance for you to make a comeback. Zixuan, don't worry. When Han Zixuan heard this, the corners of her mouth curled up in disdain. There was nothing for her to worry about. Even if she had to worry about what would happen next, it would be Ning Xiaoluo's problem. The reason why Ning Xi looked so indifferent was probably that Su Yin had promised her something in private. She probably hoped that if she couldn't survive in the entertainment industry, she would go to Su Yin. Now that this matter had been exposed, her reputation was completely ruined, and she could no longer stay in the entertainment industry. Even if Su Yin was head over heels for her, would the Su family allow her to marry into the family? Moreover, Ning Xiaoluo was there too. The Su family and Ning Xiaoluo would not let her go even if she did nothing. At this moment, Yin Yuyu was sitting quietly beside Han Zixuan. She agreed with Zheng Enru's words. Zixuan, Sister Enru, is right. Ningxi is doomed this time. Then, it's your turn, Han Zixuan. She really couldn't wait to see the scene of Ning Xi and Han Zixuan tearing each other apart. Chapter 2014. It was only a short 2-hour auction, but everyone at the scene felt as if a day had passed like a year. In the end, even the auctioneer himself was a little absent-minded. The 3 confirmations became shorter and shorter, faster and faster, and he didn't even raise the price. Number 39, 5 million going once. Number 39, 5 million going twice. Number 39, 5 million going thrice. Sold. With a bang, almost everyone breathed a sigh of relief when the auction gavel fell. The last auction item of the night was finally sold, and this charity evening finally came to an end. Today's charity evening has come to a successful end. Thank you all for your contributions to charity. All the money from this auction will be used to help children with leukemia. Thank you. Thank you. With the host's concluding remarks, there was a burst of applause. However, after the applause, none of the guest journalists on the scene got up and left. Everyone looked in a certain direction with burning eyes. Han Zixuan wasn't in a hurry. She calmly watched from the side with the cold eyes of a bystander. She wanted to see clearly how the arrogant national goddess, the most popular female star, left the entertainment circle in disgrace in front of her. After the auction, before Ning Xi stood up, the journalists who had been waiting for a long time couldn't wait to swarm up, as if they were afraid that Ning Xi would run away. Miss Ning Xi, can you answer our questions now? Ning Xi, do you want to take this opportunity to clear your name by attending the charity evening today? Do you still want to stay in the entertainment circle after such a thing happened? You haven't said anything since it happened. Don't you have anything to say to the victim, Miss Ning Xiaoluo, and the fans who have been defending you? Even to your opponent, Miss Han Zixuan, your unfair competition is an insult to her. Ning Xi looked coldly at the scene in front of her, and the corners of her mouth inadvertently curved into a sneer. Han Zixuan had been waiting for Ning Xi to have nothing to say and slap herself in the face. Ning Xi's silence at this moment made her feel that Ning Xi's calmness was a forced facade. Han Zixuan narrowed her eyes, and a vicious gleam flashed across her eyes. When no one could get an answer from Ning Xi, she suddenly said, Ning Xi, you just said that you would give everyone an answer after the event. I hope you can keep your promise and apologize to those who have been hurt. Since I've already interfered in this matter, I'll get involved to the end. Han Zixuan's voice was loud enough for everyone present to hear her clearly. Many people on the scene nodded in agreement. That's right. She's a reputable person in the entertainment industry. How could she not give an explanation after doing such a thing? That's too irresponsible. This kind of person doesn't even care about the most basic morality of being a human. What kind of responsibility do you expect her to take? No matter how good her acting skills are, her character is too bad. She is far worse than Han Zixuan on this point. I can only say that she was too good at pretending before. Now she can't pretend anymore and even doesn't care about her face. After all, even if she can't stay in the entertainment circle, she can continue to fight for the position of the eldest young mistress of the Su family. Chapter 2015. Seeing Ning Shi being despised and shameful by everyone, Han Zixuan's resentment for the past few days was finally vented. When she looked at Ning Shi, she pretended to be disappointed and sighed. Ning Shi, I respect you as a senior. I didn't want to do this, but I didn't expect that even now, you're still unwilling to face it and give everyone an explanation. Don't you think it's wrong for you to destroy other people's families and seduce a married man? It makes me sick to stand in the same hall with a third party like you. Han Zixuan stood on the moral high ground under the banner of seeking justice for Ning Xiulaw. Every word she said was powerful. Even if her words were harsh, no one would think that there was anything wrong with it. Instead, many people agreed with her. Ning Shi still sat in the same place, supporting her head with one hand. Looking at Han Zixuan's indignant and righteous posture, she suddenly raised the corners of her mouth into an intriguing smile. Her slightly raised eyes flashed with a touch of pity. You want an explanation? Then I'll give you an explanation. After Ning Shi finished speaking, she turned her head and glanced at Su Tao next to her. Su Tao had long been anxious to the point of scratching his heart and lungs. Now that he had finally received the Queen's instructions, he immediately flew up to the stage like a sparrow that had been released from its cage. Seeing Su Tao suddenly walk to the stage, everyone whispered to each other with a suspicious look. What trick does Su Tao want to play this time? Su Tao is the best at brainwashing his fans. Is he going to play the emotional card and say that Ning Shi and Su Yan love each other? That's disgusting. Isn't he going to be a prostitute? Maybe he will directly announce his retirement from the entertainment industry? Below the stage, Han Zixuan and Zheng Anru watched Su Tao walk to the stage coldly. At the same time, all the reporters also pointed their cameras at Su Tao. Just then, Su Tao said something to the host, and then walked to the projector and fiddled with it for a while. Not long after, the big screen on the stage that had been turned off suddenly lit up again. Without any buffer, without warning, a huge, indescribable, and extremely explosive video rushed into everyone's eyes, catching them off guard. Faster, deeper, deeper. Mr. E, you're the best. I want more. Cough, cough, cough. A reporter who was drinking water directly sprayed the back of the head of a reporter in front of him. Some female artists were so shocked that they dropped the small mirror in their hands. The host, who was watching the gossip on the side of the stage, was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. Oh my God, it was simply unsightly. What was Su Tao doing? Is he crazy? Did I take the wrong USB flash drive? Su Tao's taste was a little heavy. You actually like such a slutty girl. Just as everyone was sneering with disdain, no one noticed that in the corner, Han Zixuan felt as though she had been struck by lightning. She stood there in a daze. As the ambiguous moans grew louder and louder, Han Zixuan's face quickly turned pale. The thick foundation on her cheeks could no longer hide her pale, almost green face. How could this be? Stop. Hurry up and stop. Han Zixuan's heart was filled with crazed roars, but when everyone was looking down on the man and woman in the video, it was as if all the blood in her body had frozen. A chill seeped out from the soles of her feet, almost freezing her limbs. She couldn't even make a sound. Turn it off. Hurry up and turn it off. However, the heavens didn't hear Han Zixuan's inner roar. In the next second, the camera on the big screen suddenly switched, and an extremely familiar face suddenly appeared in the video. Wearing sexy black lingerie, with big wavy hair and an expression of enjoyment on her face. It was Han Zixuan herself, and the man in the video was also recognized by everyone. It was the former general manager of Shengshi Entertainment, Yi Sudong. Chapter 2016. On the big screen, when her face appeared clearly in front of everyone, Han Zixuan's heart, which was suspended in the air, fiercely pounded on the ground. Her body shook violently, and her frightened face suddenly became blank. Other than the man's heavy breathing and the woman's moans, the conversation between the two was also unbearable, which made everyone's jaws drop. Ah, faster, faster, don't stop. Mr. E, you're the best, little bitch. Why are you so slutty? HM, then do you like me like this? Of course I like it. Then do you like me more? Or do you like your wife more? How can that fat woman compare to you? Don't mention that disgusting woman at this time. On the big screen, the video continued. The scale of the two in the video was comparable to that of a micro, which made everyone's jaw drop. No one would have thought that Han Zishuan, who had always walked the path of a cold goddess, would be so unbearably slutty in bed. Below the stage, everyone who had just recovered from the shock looked at each other, dumbfounded. Oh my God, am I seeing things? The person in the video is it Han Zishuan? It's Han Zishuan and Yi Sudong, and they're doing it directly in Yi Sudong's office. Doesn't Yi Sudong have a wife? Not only does he have a wife, his child is old enough to buy soy sauce. Oh my God, I can't keep up with this anymore. What's going on? At this moment, the image changed and switched to another video. The scale of this video was no less than the previous one. The previous video was in the office, but this one was in the nanny car. The camera first flashed past the license plate number, then focused on the car. There was no one around, and the two took off each other's clothes while kissing, then climbed into the car together. Soon, the car began to shake up and down. In the car, Han Zishuan's upper body was naked, and her lower body was pressed by Yi Sudong. The two's voices and conversation could be vaguely heard from the speaker. HM, Sudong, don't do this. What if someone sees us? Let's go to the hotel. HM, what are you afraid of? Even if it was photographed, who would dare to expose me? Yi Sudong's eyes were cloudy with lust. He pinched Han Zishuan's slender waist and said in a rough voice, "Little bitch, let's change positions." Han Zishuan twisted her body like a water snake and said angrily, "No, you can't even do what you promised me. You said that I would debut this month?" Yi Sudong said proudly, debut? You're underestimating me. That woman, Lin Jiji, is too ignorant and always goes against me. When I drive her out of the company, all the resources in Ningxi's hands will be yours. From now on, you'll be the most popular girl in our entertainment. Really? Han Zishuan's eyes suddenly lit up, and her eyes were full of naked ambition. Of course, you are so beautiful. You can totally imitate Ningxi and walk the same path as her. At that time, all her resources will be transferred to you. After the two videos were played, the big screen returned to darkness. The scene was dead silent. Not a sound could be heard. The sudden revelations, each more explosive than the last, smashed everyone until they were dizzy and disoriented. Han Zishuan felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Her entire body was cold, and an unprecedented despair engulfed her like a swamp. Her mind was blank. It was impossible. It was impossible. How did things turn out like this? It was over. This time, she was really done for. Under the stage, Ningxi glanced at Han Zishuan indifferently. Her languid eyes were filled with cold ice, and she said darkly, "Han Zishuan, are you satisfied with this explanation?" Chapter 2017. Before the previous wave subsided, another wave arose. No one had expected Su Tao to release something 100 times more explosive than what Han Zishuan had revealed. Even more unexpected was that in just a few minutes, Han Zishuan was stripped naked right after she finished speaking. Her secret was completely exposed to the public. After Ningxi retired, she replaced her position at the speed of light. She had been selling herself as the one and only and flaunting herself as the clean stream of the entertainment industry. The inspirational goddess Han Zishuan's real history was so brilliant that it was comparable to a melodramatic blockbuster. Today's trip was really worth it. It's an eye-opener. Yi Sudong has a wife. Han Zishuan is better than anyone else when it comes to selling her body and being a mistress. She can even fight for justice for Ning Xiaoluo with a righteous attitude. The funniest thing is that she said she hates mistresses who destroy other people's families the most. So she deliberately imitated Ning Shi and snatched Ning Shi's resources. She used Ning Shi as a stepping stone to get to the top. She even said that she's one and only and that she doesn't want to be mentioned in the same breath as Ning Shi. I've really learned something today. There's always a taller mountain. Her skin is as thick as a city wall. Who said that Han Zixuan's acting isn't as good as Ning Shi's? Han Zixuan is the real best actress in the entertainment industry. At the same time, all the reporters left Ning Shi's side and pounced on Han Zixuan. Miss Han Zixuan, is it you in the video? May I ask if you really seduced your married boss and used the unspoken rules to get to the top? Do you know that Yi Sudong already has a wife? You claim to be righteous, but you're doing what you say is shameful. What do you have to say about that? All the questions that were thrown at Ning Shi earlier were now thrown back at Han Zixuan. Han Zixuan bit her lips hard. Her eyes were filled with madness and malice. She looked at Ning Shi as if she wanted to skin her alive. She took a deep breath and used all her strength to force herself to calm down. She said with a clear conscience, "I don't know what you're talking about. The woman in the video isn't me." Zhang Anru hurriedly added, "Where did you find such a lowly 3 movie? How dare you impersonate our Zixuan? Ning Shi, I'm going to sue you for defamation and infringement of reputation. Do you think you can clear your name by defaming Zixuan? You can't change the fact that you're filthy and lowly." Su Tao seemed to have expected that. He sneered and said, "Well, the video clearly shows that Han Zixuan and Yi Sudong had sex with each other in the office of Shengshi Entertainment and in Han Zixuan's nanny car. Fingerprints are required to enter Shengshi Entertainment, not to mention Han Zixuan's private nanny car. How could they have impersonated her? Why don't you try impersonating one?" As Su Tao said that, several clear screenshots appeared on the big screen. One was Yi Sudong's office. The other was the license plate number of the nanny car, and the picture of Han Zixuan opening the door with the car key. The clear evidence, once again, ruthlessly slapped the two of them in the face. At this moment, everyone was looking at the two of them with extreme disdain. Chapter 2018. Fuck, she's still pretending at a time like this. She's refreshing my offline page. A shameless person is invincible. I even spoke up for her just now, saying that she's righteous. I'm so blind. Han Zixuan, get out of the entertainment industry. Han Zixuan, get out of the entertainment industry. Han Zixuan's acting was perfect, but now everyone was as angry and shocked as they were. They sneered and mocked her, shouted at her to get out of the entertainment industry, and aimed their microphones and flashes at her. Han Zixuan's hair was messy. Her delicate makeup was ruined, her luxurious gown was crumpled, and one of her high heels had fallen off. She kept repeating, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me, stop squeezing, stop squeezing. Security, where's the security? I'm going to call the police if you keep this up." Ah! Zhang Anru screamed as a bottle of mineral water was smashed on her head. The whole scene was in chaos. It was the age of the internet. It wasn't like the past, where the public would only know about the big news the next day when the newspaper office had to work overtime to print it. All the major media outlets had already posted what was happening on the internet, and they had even live-streamed the whole thing in real time. Everything that had happened just now, including the video of Han Zixuan and Yi Sudong on the big screen, as well as the scene of Han Zixuan appearing with disheveled hair and getting beaten up by everyone, quickly spread to every corner and caused a huge uproar on the internet. In the luxurious bedroom of the Su family's house, Ning Xiaoluo's dark face reflected the dim light from the laptop, and her eyes were filled with malice. Useless thing. She had already handed the knife to Han Zixuan, but she still messed things up. Ning, she had gotten hold of such an important weakness of hers, and she didn't even know about it before this. What a waste. Ning Xiaoluo's phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed that it was Zhang Anru. Ning Xiaoluo glanced at it from the corner of her eyes and pressed the reject button without hesitation. Han Zixuan was definitely done for if such a video was released. There was no point in keeping this kind of waste. She had achieved her goal anyway. Ning Shuo took a deep breath, picked up her phone, and dialed number. She sounded extremely displeased. Did I spend money just to let you watch the show? Don't forget your mission today. No matter what happens, we can't let Ningxi get away with this. Yes, President Ning, don't worry. Ningxi can't run away. Just wait and see. That better be the case. At the charity banquet, while Han Zixuan and Zheng Anru were shouting at each other, a voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. Hell, what a dog-eat-dog scene. Ningxi, is this the explanation you vow to give us? Even if Han Zixuan committed murder and arson, what does that have to do with you? Does that change the fact that you seduced Su Yin and forced Ning Shui, a pregnant woman? Reminded by the tall reporter, the indignant onlookers immediately turned their attention to Ning, she who was sitting on the table. Exactly. What was this? Divert my attention? Are you treating us like fools? This kind of person is not worthy of sympathy. She deserves to have her fans and resources stolen by Han Zixuan. I think she's even more vicious than Han Zixuan. She wouldn't even let a pregnant woman off. When she was discovered, she didn't apologize or give an explanation to the public. Instead, she was in a hurry to drag someone else down with her. Her character is really amazing. Chapter 2019. The tall reporter said indignantly, Ning Shui Luo is so unlucky. She got involved in the quarrel between these two bitches. This immediately aroused many people's agreement. I'm getting more and more disappointed with this circle. All the innocent and kind people are gone, but the unscrupulous and shameless bitches can live well. Bitches, get out of the entertainment circle. In the banquet hall, the artists were shouting and cursing incessantly. All the exits were blocked. The indignant media also surrounded Ning Shi and Su Tao to denounce them. Amidst the chaotic crowd, Yin Yuyu quietly hid among the agitated crowd. Everything went so smoothly, exactly as she had expected. Her palms were hot, and her body was trembling with excitement. It was over. Han Zixuan was over. Ning, she was over. She no longer had to look at Han Zixuan's face. She no longer had to fight for Zixuan's money. At that time, she would have the top resources in the entire entertainment circle. It was even possible for her to replace Ning Shi and get the killer. After all, in the entire entertainment circle, without Han Zixuan and Ning Shi, she would be the most popular. She couldn't wait to find Su Tao after all this was over. She even began to think of a blueprint for the future. While the reporters besieged Ning Shi, Han Zixuan hid in the corner with messy clothes and dirty hair. She stared straight at Ning Shi and suddenly laughed in a low voice. She seemed to have thought of something. She looked like a madman. Ha, ha, ha. Ning Shi, why can you do it, but I can't? How much nobler are you than me? You seduced a married man and used the unspoken rules to get to the top. Don't pretend to be pretentious in front of me. Even if you slander me to death, you won't get away with it. You won't get away with it even if I die, haha. At this moment, the banquet hall was completely out of control. The onlookers were broadcasting the scene live on their mobile phones. The professional cameras of the media reporters also synchronized the high-definition images directly to major media or live video websites. All the related live broadcast rooms were full of people. Apart from the media at the scene, the comments in the live stream were also filled with vulgar words and curses. Under the pressure of public opinion, which could almost drive a person crazy on the spot, Han Zixuan was already in a difficult position and was in a trance. As for Ning Shi, she wore a long black dress, and her black hair was like a cloud. Her cold eyes didn't have a trace of emotion. From the beginning to the end, she maintained a sitting posture on her seat. Seeing that Ning Shi was pretending to be calm, the tall reporter was full of complacency. He looked even angrier and shouted to the crowd, As media reporters, it's our duty to restore the truth for the public and seek justice for the weak. I can't let this matter go like this. Ning Shi, it's not that easy to divert your attention. If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation today, we will not let this matter rest. His words immediately incited a large number of people. That's right. It definitely couldn't end here. Ning Shi, apologize to the public. Apologize to the innocent victims. Apologize. Apologize. The tall reporter continued. If an apology works, why do we need the police? Not only should he apologize publicly, but he should also be banned forever. Just as the tall reporter was getting more and more excited, Ning Shi's slightly cold eyes suddenly fell on his face from her seat. Chapter 2020. That gaze seemed to be light and powerless, but it felt like an ice blade was pressed against his throat. In the next second, blood was sealed. An extremely dangerous chill suddenly seeped into his body, causing him to be unable to utter a single word. When the reporter came to his senses, he found that his vest was wet with sweat. Damn it. She was just an actress who sold her body to get a position. What was there to be afraid of? The next second, Ning Shi had already moved her eyes away from the reporter and coldly looked at the live camera in front of her. The cameraman immediately held his breath and steadily held the camera. The other cameras and other people's mobile phones also aimed at Ning Shi. Ning Shi stared at the camera. Her terrifying gaze was not at the cameraman, but someone through the camera. At this moment, Ning Shuo was waiting to see Ning Shi's damn calmness completely torn apart, to see her fall into the mud and be doomed eternally. However, when she suddenly met Ning Shi's gaze on the screen, her back stiffened and she couldn't help but feel a chill crawling up her back. As you wish. Ning Shi looked at the camera and said 4 words. The moment her voice fell, a conversation suddenly sounded from the speakers in the banquet hall. Xiaoxi, sister, it's not me. I don't know why he is here. I deliberately waited here because I really don't know how to see you. What's the matter? Can I talk to you alone? Sister, Xiaonuo, it's none of your business. Wait for me here. Because it was night, the picture on the big screen was very dim. Only 3 figures could be vaguely seen, a woman, a teenager, and a slightly tall man. The woman's voice was obviously Ning Shi's, and the one who called Ning Shi's sister seemed to be her younger brother, Tang Nuo. Then who was the other person? Say it. It was Ning Shi's voice. The man said, Xiaoxi, let's start over, okay? Just as they were feeling suspicious, the crowd heard the man's words, and there was an uproar. Start over? Ning Shi actually revealed her own gossip. Just when everyone was confused, the man continued to say, Xiaoxi, I know what I said may sound ridiculous to you. Ning Shi's tone was extremely cold. Isn't it? Listen to me. I've thought about it for a very, very long time. This isn't something I said to you on a whim. I really, really regret it. I finally understood who the person I truly liked and loved was. Xiaoxi, what happened that year was my fault. I was the one who betrayed the feelings between us. But at the beginning, I really never thought of leaving you until I met Shuai Luo. Shuai Luo's character was too pure and weak, and after such a sudden misfortune, she often complained to me. I also don't know when it started, this kind of feeling changed. Hearing this, everyone finally knew who the speaker was. The man who spoke was actually Su Yan. But Su Yan actually said that he had abandoned his relationship with Ning Shi first? What the hell was going on? The voice from the speaker continued. Su Yan, until later, I had sex with Shuai Luo in a moment of impulse. I kept hiding it from you because I really didn't know how to face you. Chapter 2021. But it wasn't until later that I realized that all I cared about was Shuai. I never thought about your feelings. You left your hometown for me, but I left you alone. After that, Su Yan kept confessing, saying that he had wronged Ning Shi and that he didn't want to continue deceiving his feelings. After listening to this, everyone was stunned. Oh my God, could it be? Could it be that Su Yan's first girlfriend was Ning Shi? But he betrayed Ning Shi and slept with Ning Shuai, even forcing Ning Shi to leave the country? But now, Su Yan regretted it. He wanted to get Ning Shi back and pestered her. From his tone, it could be heard that Ning Shi didn't want to see him at all. He had used Ning Shi's brother to meet her. The so-called first wife was actually the mistress, and the one who was mistaken as the mistress was the real one. This reversal was like a head-on blow. Everyone was dumbfounded. Su Yin said, I know I don't have the right to say this to you in my current situation, and I definitely don't mean to insult you. I will regain my freedom. In the end, Ningxi's emotionless face flashed under the cool moonlight, and the girl's cold voice came through the speaker. Su Yin, some things are like a cotton-padded jacket in summer and a fan in winter. And when a person is disheartened, he will change his mind. As soon as she finished, there was a dead silence. Long to hear a pin drop. Those aggressive media outlets just now all had their mouths wide open like idiots. They were flabbergasted, their faces pale, and they couldn't say a word. Especially the tall reporter who had been the loudest and asked Ningxi to apologize to Ningxi. At this moment, he looked like he had eaten shit. How? How could this be? Let me calm down. My mind is in a mess now. Everyone looked at each other in a daze. At this time, someone said, what else is there to be confused about? Su Yin has already made it very clear. He was Ningxi's boyfriend, and she came to the capital because of him. In the end, Su Yin met Ningxi. Ningxi often pretended to be weak and pitiful in front of him, so Su Yin cheated on Ningxi and had sex with her. He betrayed Ningxi, and Ningxi went abroad in despair. A few years later, she came back and started a new life in the entertainment industry. Fuck. This adulterous couple was simply not human, especially Ningxi. Not only did she kidnap Ningxi's parents, she even wanted to kidnap Ningxi's boyfriend, forcing Ningxi to leave her hometown. Ningxi had finally recovered from her injury and returned to China to start a new life, but she had been suppressed by her in all kinds of ways. She had such good acting skills and talent, but she had been forced to play a minor role for more than a year. In the end, Ningxi even accused Ningxi of hurting someone on purpose and had Starlight blacklist her. Luckily, Golden Era cleared her name, and Ningxi slowly recovered after Golden Era. What's worse is that Ningxi worked so hard to get to where she is today. She even experienced life and death to return to her peak. Ningxi, on the other hand, relied on Ningxi's family background and Ningxi's man to become a phoenix, a mistress to a rich wife. She had everything, but she still refused to let Ningxi go. She pretended to distort the truth in front of Han Zixuan, saying that it was Ningxi who wouldn't let Su Yin go. She almost made us all misunderstand Ningxi. Chapter 2022. Everyone was dumbfounded at first, but they gradually came back to their senses and began to analyze everything that had happened to them one by one. It would have been better if they hadn't analyzed it, but after thinking about it carefully, they were terrified. Damn it, I really thought Ningxi was innocent. Now that I think about it, she's just a scheming bitch. What kind of inspirational goddess was she? She clearly snatched everything she had from Ningxi, didn't she? Without the Ning family, how could she survive in the entertainment circle? If she hadn't hooked up with Su Yin, which rich family would marry a wild chicken? Han Zixuan and Ningxi, no wonder they are so close. Birds of a feather flock together. Ningxi is so fucked. She was swapped at a young age. She was the daughter of a wealthy family and was forced to live among the common people. She was forced to return home. When she finally thought that she had met her true love, she was betrayed by both of them. They were supposed to be the people she loved the most, but they hurt her badly. But Ningxi has never used her family background or personal affairs to gain sympathy. Instead, she has relied on her own strength to get to where she is today without saying a word. On the contrary, it's not enough for someone to steal her parents and boyfriend. She also forced her into a dead end. She's already pregnant, but she doesn't know how to do some good for the child at her belly. At this moment, Ningxi stared at the live broadcast on the laptop, and her innocent little face was completely twisted. Xiaoxi, I regret it. I finally understand who I really like and love. Xiaoxi, I have been deceiving myself for too long. I don't want to continue deceiving myself. I will give you a title, I will marry you, and I will handle everything. You will still be Mrs. Su. Everything between us will start over again. Su Yan's words and the discussion of the media and onlookers made Ningxi's body tremble violently. Her sharp nails pinched the flesh of her palm, and bright red blood dripped to the floor. What a mistress! She was the one Su Yin liked and loved. Ning, she was the mistress who ruined their marriage. Ning, she was the shameless bitch who stole her man. Now, the whole world knew that Ning Shilua's man pestered Ning Shi and even wanted to divorce her for Ning Shi. This humiliation was driving her crazy. Ning Shi, how dare you? I want you dead. I want you to die a horrible death. In the hall of a charity gala, the reporters surrounded Ning Shi once again. Miss Ning Shi, how did Ning Shilua intervene between you and Su Yin? What was the specific situation? Can you tell me about it? Ning Shi, I can tell from their conversation that Su Yin has regretted it and even wants to divorce for you. Will you get back together with him? Ning Shi, Xing Hui has been trying to recruit you. Will you choose to leave? After all, putting aside all personal factors, Starshine's strength is more beneficial to your career, isn't it? Ning Shi didn't answer the personal questions. She glanced at everyone and said, since the media and colleagues are all here today, please be my witnesses. Hearing Ning Shi's words, the media and the surrounding artists held their breath, waiting for her next words. Ning Shi paused and looked in the direction of the camera. I, Ning Shi, swear today that I will be a member of Golden Era in life and a ghost of Golden Era in death. As long as I'm in the entertainment industry, I'll never leave Golden Era. I'll live and die with them. Chapter 2023. Live and die with Golden Era, advance and retreat with them. This short sentence set off a huge wave in everyone's hearts. Moreover, this sentence was equivalent to directly rejecting Su Yin, indicating that he would never be with Su Yin. The livestream room was flooded with messages. Awesome, my brother Shi. Live and die together. Advance and retreat together. Brother Shi is really domineering. He has always been vilified, but he has never been defeated. I have no regrets in this life. I only love brother Shi. As for Su Tao, who was next to Ning Shi, he was so touched that he almost cried when he heard his queen's words. At this moment, a certain Koi that was watching the live broadcast was also on the verge of tears. He automatically substituted Ning Shi's golden age into his brother's name. In the end, his face was covered in blood because of this show of affection. In life, he belonged to his brother, but in death, he belonged to his brother's ghost. Roar! After Ning Shi finished speaking, she nodded to the crowd and then got up to leave. Everyone automatically made way for her, sending her off with their eyes. No matter what kind of suffering and slander she faced, she would always leave everyone with her strong side. Such a girl, what kind of man would be able to match her? In the crowd, Han Zixuan had already fallen to the ground with a sluggish expression. She had never expected the truth to be like this. She was the only one who was doomed to eternal damnation. From now on, Ning Shi would be an existence that she could only look up to. Ying Yu, who was hiding in the corner, was completely dumbfounded. Her face was pale and filled with disbelief. How could this be? How could this be? Didn't Su Tao say that they had no way to clear Ning Shi's name? Why did things turn out like this in the end? Although Han Zixuan was finished, Ning Shi was not driven out of the entertainment circle. Instead, she became even more popular. What about her? What was she going to do now? Han Zixuan and Zheng Anru must have guessed that she was the one who did it. Xing Hui would never let her off. In the parking lot, Su Tao pounced on Liang Feixing, who was watching from the nanny van. Liangzi, did you hear that? Do you hear me? Her Majesty the Queen said that she would live and die with me, advance and retreat with me. The corner of Liang Feixing's mouth twitched as he pushed her away. Brother, you think too highly of yourself. The lady boss's words were clearly meant for the boss to hear. Okay? Su Tao was slapped, but he didn't care at all. He was still immersed in joy. Thanks to the paparazzi this time. If they hadn't meddled in other people's business and tried to dig up Ning Shi's dirt, we wouldn't have gotten this video. These paparazzi followed Ning Shi all the way to Capital University and recorded the conversation between Ning Shi and Su Yin, but they were discovered in time by Ning Shi's bodyguards in the dark who stopped them. Who would have thought that this thing would come in handy later on? Ning Shi had never liked to involve her personal affairs at her work, but this time it concerned the reputation of Golden Era. She volunteered to use the recording without hesitation. "Your Majesty, be careful." Su Tao opened the door for Ning Shi. Just as he was about to get into the car, he suddenly heard hurried footsteps behind him. "Brother Tao, wait." It was Yin Yu who caught up to them, panting heavily. Su Tao raised his brows. "It's Yu. What's the matter?" Yin Yu's eyes were filled with anger, but she could only suppress it. "Brother Tao, I have something to talk to you about." "Sure." Su Tao agreed without hesitation. He then told Ning Shi and Liang Feishing to leave first. Ning Shi glanced out of the car window and frowned. Liang Feishing drove away without a care in the world. "Don't worry, Lady Boss. Yin Yu is no match for that old fox, Su Tao." Chapter 2024. Su Tao poured himself a cup of tea. "The Westlake Longjing here is pretty good." Yin Yu was not in the mood to enjoy her tea. Her phone had been ringing nonstop. The first one to call was Han Zixuan, followed by Zheng Anru, then her manager, and finally Wang Haojun himself. Yin Yu did not dare to pick up any of the calls, nor did she dare to hang up. She could only mute her phone with a pale face and stare at the screen that kept flickering. Su Tao naturally noticed Yin Yu's incessant calls as well. He said with a considerate expression, "Yu, you seem to be very busy. Why don't we meet another day?" Yin Yu calmed down a little when she heard Su Tao's voice. She stared at Su Tao excitedly and said, "Brother Tao, didn't you say that Golden Era could not solve Ning Shi's problem?" Su Tao took a sip of his tea and sighed. "It's indeed troublesome. We were lucky this time. Fortunately, we managed to get some evidence from a paparazzi that could prove Ning Shi's innocence." When Yin Yu heard this, she revealed a suspicious expression. She felt that something was wrong, but she was too distracted to think too much about it at the moment. Damn it. All of Golden Era's resources were supposed to belong to her once Ning Shi fell. Who knew that she would be suppressed by Han Zixuan instead of Ning Shi? But no matter what, she only had Su Tao as her last resort. If Su Tao dared to leave her alone after he had Ning Shi, then she, Yin Yu, was not a person to be trifled with. Yin Yu took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in her heart. "Brother Tao, when are you going to sign me back to Golden Era?" Su Tao was surprised when he heard that. He pretended to look around frantically and said in a low voice, "What? Sign you back to Golden Era? You can't just say that. You're doing well in Starlight now. Why would you suddenly have such an idea?" Yin Yu's eyebrows twitched. She was stunned by Su Tao's question. "Su Tao, what do you mean?" Su Tao shrugged innocently. Yu, I really don't know why you would suddenly say something like that." Yin Yu couldn't believe it. She slammed the table and stood up. "Su Tao, you instigated me to help you take down Han Zixuan, and now you want to renege on your promise after using me?" In contrast to Yin Yu's rage, Su Tao leisurely sat on the chair opposite her and continued to pretend to be a big shot. You helped me take down Han Zixuan? Yu, why is it that I don't understand what you're saying?" Yin Yu was so angry that she almost died. At the same time, she finally understood everything. "Su Tao, you know that I have something on Han Zixuan, so you misled me and made me think that Ning Shi is really going to leave the entertainment industry. Then, you told me that you would sign me back to Golden Era and give me all of Ning Shi's resources as long as I get Han Zixuan down. Now that I've sent you Han Zixuan's video and helped you get rid of her, you're turning your back on me. You mean you're the one who sent those anonymous videos to me?" Su Tao was surprised. With this kind of acting skills, it would be enough to enter the entertainment industry. "Su Tao, you're still pretending to me even now. I'm telling you, if you push me too hard, I'll let everyone know your true colors." Yin Yu roared. Chapter 2025. Su Tao leaned against the back of his chair with one hand on the armrest. He chuckled. "I was in a bad mood that day, so I chatted with you casually. I really didn't expect you to have so much in your head. I didn't expect you to have something on Han Zixuan. You even sent it to me. Sigh. You, why are you so muddle-headed? Don't you know that you'll be finished once this thing is exposed? Nonsense. Of course she knew. It was all because she thought that Ningxi was doomed this time, and Su Tao had promised to sign her back to Golden Era. At this moment, Yin Yu finally understood that she'd completely fallen into Su Tao's trap, and she'd fallen into this old fox's trap. Yin Yu's eyes were filled with viciousness. Su Tao, if I'm banned, you won't be able to continue in this industry. What if Golden Era and Ningxi find out that you secretly met me, an artist from Starlight, and try to poach me? What would they think? Su Tao shook his head with a pained expression. Sigh. The morals of the world are degenerating day by day. Why are the girls nowadays so scheming? All right, I forgot to tell you that I accidentally recorded our conversation when I was chatting with you that day. After saying that, Su Tao unlocked his phone and pressed the play button. The conversation between the two could be heard from the phone. Yin Yu listened from the beginning to the end, and her face turned paler the more she listened. Su Tao, this scoundrel, was watertight with his words. From the beginning to the end, he did not leave out a single word that could be used against him. All he did was reminisce about the past, as though he was worried about her situation because of their past relationship. If this recording was released, it would not affect Su Tao at all, but it would become the biggest evidence that she had deliberately sent Han Zixuan's video to Su Tao. Yin Yu fell into the chair behind her. She was in a daze. Su Tao, you're taking revenge on me, Su Tao chuckled. Heh, you're not important enough for me to put in so much effort. He was only doing this for his queen. Hearing Su Tao's words and thinking of how Su Tao had gone to great lengths for her in the past, Yin Yu suddenly broke down and cried loudly on the table. Big Brother Tao, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I was blinded by greed. I was tricked by them. When Xing Hui poached me, they lied to me and said that they would make me equal to Han Zixuan. This time, Xing Hui definitely won't let me off. Please save me. Su Tao didn't say anything. He took one last look at the girl he brought up and turned to leave. Starlight Entertainment, conference room. Wang Haojuan's face darkened as he slammed the table. Yin Yu, did you give those videos to Su Tao? I gave it to you. What's wrong? Originally, everyone thought that Yin Yu would definitely deny it, but unexpectedly, Yin Yu didn't quibble at all. Bitch. Han Zixuan instantly pounced over and slapped Yin Yu's face. Yin Yu's fair little face was slapped to the side. Her face burned with pain, reminding Yin Yu of everything that had happened since she came to Xing Hui. She thought of how Han Zixuan had suppressed her, and she thought of the desperate situation she was in after giving the videos to Su Tao. She had nothing left. She had nothing left. If it wasn't for Han Zixuan's bullying, she wouldn't have been forced to this point. After a few seconds of silence, Yin Yu instantly raised her head, raised her hand, and slapped back. Chapter 2026. Han Zixuan covered her face with her hands in disbelief. Her eyes were scarlet. Bitch, you hit me. Who do you think you are? How dare you hit me? Yin Yu sneered. Ha! Han Zixuan, I should be the one saying that. Who do you think you are? You are the cancer of the entertainment industry. Ningxi's substitute. The mistress that everyone wants to kill. Do you still think you're Starlight Entertainment's #1 sister? You shameless bitch. What right do you have to act like a tyrant over my head all day? I'm telling you, I've had enough. Yin Yu, I dare you to say that again. Who do you think you are? You're just a dog by my side. The two of them cursed at each other and eventually started fighting each other by pulling each other's hair. A few people surrounded them and finally pulled them apart. Shut up, all of you. Are you trying to rebel? Wang Haojuan was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He had thought that after taking down Ningxi, Han Zixuan and Starlight Entertainment would be invincible and he would have nothing to worry about anymore. Who knew that things would develop to this point? It was fine that Ningxi was cleared, but Han Zixuan was also exposed to such a huge scandal. Because of those two videos, Han Zixuan was completely ruined. The pillar that had been built up with so many resources was smashed into pieces. There was no room for recovery at all. He could only watch as Starlight Entertainment's stock price plummeted. When he found out from Han Zishuan that those videos were given to Su Tao by his own artist, he wanted to kill someone. In Yu, do you know how much damage you've caused the company? Do you still have any professional ethics in your eyes? Wang Haojuan vented his anger on In Yu. Facing Wang Haojuan's anger, In Yu sneered and said, when Han Zishuan's family was acting like a tyrant, why didn't the company think about the promise they made when they poached us? Why didn't they think about the losses we would suffer? It's up to you whether you want to ban me or freeze me. I've had enough of this industry anyway. Now, she finally understood how ridiculous it was for her to go back on her word and jump ship to Starlight Entertainment. If she had not betrayed Golden Era, she would not have ended up like this. At this moment, she finally regretted it. After seeing everything clearly, she finally realized the true meaning of the phrase, a man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. But now, it was too late to say anything. Inyu took a deep breath. Ignoring her agent's attempts to stop her, she slammed the door and left, cutting off Wang Haojuan's exasperated roars and Han Zishuan's curses. Late at night, Ning Shuo was sent to the hospital because of a sudden pain in her abdomen. At this moment, both the Ning and Su families already knew what happened at the charity banquet. Zhuang Lingyu was shaking with anger. Zheng Minjun, Su Hongguang, you have taught your son well. If anything happens to Shuo Luo, I will definitely not let you off. Zheng Minjun was originally a little guilty because Su Yin was going to divorce Ning Shuo. Now that she heard Zhuang Lingyu scolding her precious son, she almost scolded her. She should be the one saying that. Zhuang Lingyu had taught her daughter well. What did Su Yin say wrong? If her daughter had not seduced Su Yin, would Su Yin have broken up with Ning Shi? If Ning Shuo had not interfered, they would have become in-laws of the Zhuang family. If Ning Shuo had not cried and spouted nonsense in front of that starlet, someone would not have posted it on the internet. Everyone would know that she had embarrassed the Su family. Chapter 2027. But there was no other way. Ning Shuo was pregnant with the Su family's child, and it had been found out that it was a boy. In this case, it would be terrible if Ning Shuo hurt her precious grandson. After all, Su Sun, that bastard, was still eyeing Su Yin. The sooner he had an heir, the better it would be for him. No matter what, she had to let Ning Shuo get the child down first. Thinking of this, Zheng Minjun could only bear with it. She softened her tone and said, "In-law, you can't blame our Su Yin for this. You know our Su Yan's character, and he has always been so close to Shuo. It's impossible for him to have an affair in marriage. If Ning Shi hadn't secretly seduced our Su Yin, why would Su Yin take it so hard? She said it so nicely, but I guess she's just playing hard to get. Now that girl publicized everything on the internet for her own benefit. How can our two families face each other in the future?" Zheng Minjun was very unhappy when she thought of Ning Shi's cold attitude towards her son. If it wasn't for the Zhuang family, Ning Shi was just an actress. What is she so proud of? Therefore, Zheng Minjun simply put all the blame on Ning Shi. Once Ning Shi was mentioned, Zhuang Lingyu was indeed angered even more, clutching her violently heaving chest. What sin did I commit in my past life to give birth to such an evil creature? Why is she not willing to let off Shuo Luo? Not willing to let off our Ning family? Ning Yaohua saw Zhuang Lingyu's emotional state and panicked. "Lingyu, don't get angry. Be careful not to hurt yourself. Look at what that girl has done. How can I not be angry? She's clearly taking revenge. She just doesn't want us to have an easy time." Zhuang Lingyu was crying when Su Yin rushed over. Ning Shuo's pregnancy was a big blow to him, and Ning Shi's rejection made him even more depressed. In order to escape, he had been using the excuse of going abroad for a business trip. Who knew that such a big thing would happen in the country? After learning that Ning Shi had been misunderstood and scolded by everyone because of Han Zishuan's 2 videos, he was so anxious that he immediately bought a plane ticket to return to the country. In the end, before he could do anything, the moment the plane landed, he saw the live broadcast of the charity banquet. His first reaction was to rush over to look for Ning Shi, but in the end, his family gave him a call informing him that Ningxi had a stomachache and was admitted to the hospital, asking him to hurry back. "How is Shui Luo?" Su Yin asked while panting slightly. When Zhuang Lingyu saw Su Yin, she was instantly angered. "Do you still have Shui Luo as your wife in your eyes?" Su Yin clenched his fists and lowered his head. "I'm sorry." Zhang Minjun immediately went up and pushed Su Yin. Okay, I know you were fooled by Ningxi. Go to see Shui Luo and tell her. Don't let her misunderstand, Mom." Su Yin frowned. Zhang Minjun gave Su Yin a look to stop him from continuing. She quickly pushed him into the ward and continued to comfort Zhuang Lingyu and Ning Yaohua. "In-laws, it's normal for young couples to quarrel. As elders, we shouldn't interfere too much. Otherwise, it might backfire. Besides, they even had a child. How could they divorce? Even if Su Yin was impulsive, there's still me and Hongguang. Anyway, in-laws, don't worry. We will definitely not let Shui Luo suffer." Chapter 2028. Su Hongguang added, "As for Su Yin, he's already made up his mind. The problem you're worried about won't happen." Seeing Zhang Minjun and Su Hongguang's attitude, Zhuang Lingyu's expression turned for the better. After all, the culprit of this matter was Ningxi, that wicked girl. Zhuang Lingyu sighed. "I know how you and Su Yin treat our Shui Luo. But now that things have come to this, how can our Shui Luo face others in the future? How can she survive in this circle?" Su Hongguang quickly said, "That's not a problem. Even if Ningxi and Su Yin dated first, it was something that happened before they got married. Shui Luo and Su Yin have been married for so long, and they even have a child. As long as Su Yin and Shui Luo are still in love, everyone will talk about it for a few days at most. I'll talk to Su Yin later and ask him to make a statement that he'll handle this matter well. Don't worry, in-law." Zhuang Lingyu and Ning Yaohua nodded, satisfied. Before Su Yin entered the ward to see Ning Shui Luo, Su Hongguang called him aside. "Father." Su Hongguang looked at his son and sighed. "Su Yin, this matter can be big or small. You have to know that for a family's heir, marriage is very important to your image." "I know." Su Yin nodded tiredly. "Now everyone knows that Shui Luo is pregnant. Even if it is revealed that Ningxi dated you first, if you divorce Shui Luo at this time and abandon a pregnant woman, it will definitely have a great impact on the reputation of our Su family. Shui Luo needs to be comforted. As for Ningxi, to avoid suspicion, it's best not to get too close to her." Su Hongguang reminded him sternly. It was obviously not the right time for a divorce. Su Yan's pupils constricted. He was already too embarrassed to face Shui Luo's pregnancy. This time, Ningxi was almost forced to a dead end because of him. How could he not care? Su Hongguang patted his son's shoulder and comforted him. "Su Yin, father understands your thoughts. To achieve great things, one must know how to be patient. Right now, everything has to wait until Shui Luo gives birth to the child, understand?" Su Yin took a deep breath and suppressed the surging emotions in his heart. "Father, I understand." In the ward, Ning Shuiluo's eyes were red as she leaned against the headboard. Ning Shuiluo slowly turned around when she heard familiar footsteps. The moment she saw the man, the tears that she had been holding back for a long time fell. Brother Yin. Looking at the girl who was pregnant with his flesh and blood, Su Yin awkwardly averted his eyes. After a long silence, he only said 3 words, "I'm sorry." She listened to Su Yan's sorry and how he admitted to everything without even trying to defend himself. Ning Shuo clenched her fists tightly under the blanket. She had the ferocious look in her eyes and looked even more miserable. She smiled bitterly and said, "Actually, I knew. I should have known. Sister is so beautiful. She's so outstanding. No matter how hard I try, I can't catch up to her. One day, you'll still return to her side. Whether it's in the past or now, I've never thought of fighting with you. If it's possible, I'm willing. I'm willing to help you." Chapter 2029. Ning Shuiluo sobbed and touched her belly with her trembling fingers. "Brother Yin, as long as you're happy, I'll do anything. But Brother Yin, There's nothing I can do. Our child. What about our child? Su Yin sat on the edge of the bed and wiped away the girl's tears with his fingers. His heart was numb and his tone was calm. Don't think too much. It's impossible for me and Xiaoxi. In the past, every time Ning Shuo cried in front of him, he would have infinite strength and the desire to protect her. He would do anything to protect her. Now, her tears were like a deep pool of poison to him. He couldn't breathe and just wanted to get rid of it. Hearing Su Yan's words, Ning Shuo's face didn't look better at all. Instead, it became paler. Was it just because it was impossible for him and Ning Shi now? What if it was possible for him and Ning Shi? What if she wasn't pregnant? Or after her child was born? Would he immediately kick her away and couldn't wait to marry Ning Shi? Ning Shuo's fingers, which were on her abdomen, clenched tightly. Her eyes darkened. 2 days later, Su Yin posted on Weibo. The content was through hardships. In the picture, he and Ning Shuo were holding hands. In the past 2 days, Ning Shi's fans and some passersby had been cursing Su Yin and Ning Shuo. However, Ning Shuo was pregnant and she had been married for so long. Now Su Yin had chosen family. No matter how much they felt for Ning Shi, it was not appropriate for them to meddle in other people's family affairs. The cursing on the internet gradually died down. During this period, Yin Yu suddenly posted a statement, announcing her permanent retirement from the entertainment industry. If this news was released alone, it would be enough to cause a sensation in the entertainment industry. However, because of the headline of Han Zixuan being banned, Yin Yu's retirement from the entertainment industry only caused a small stir. Soon, everyone's attention was shifted to Han Zixuan. This time, Han Zixuan's image was completely ruined. She was banned from the entire entertainment industry. Even though she was unwilling to give up, even the most inferior entertainment companies were not willing to hire her. Ning Shuo was also completely uncontactable. Central Square of the capital. Han Zixuan wore a big pair of sunglasses and got out of the car. Yi Sudong suddenly took the initiative to send her a text message, asking her to meet up. Now, Yi Sudong was no longer the general manager of Shengshe Entertainment. He had opened his own entertainment company, but it didn't make much money. It had been operating at a loss. If it weren't for his wife, he would have closed down a long time ago. Han Zixuan was full of contempt for Yi Sudong, but at this moment, she was at her wit's end. She had used all her savings since her debut to pay for the breach of contract, and even the property under her name had been taken away by the court. She was used to living a life of luxury. She couldn't live a day without money. But Zheng Anru actually wanted to sell her like a prostitute to those upstarts and coal bosses who she had disdained in the past. How could she endure it? Han Zixuan looked left and right carefully, then quickly walked in the direction of the restaurant not far away. However, just as he got out of the car and took a few steps, his vision suddenly darkened. As soon as she raised her head, she saw 2 fierce-looking burly men blocking her way with ill intent. Han Zixuan's expression suddenly changed, and she subconsciously took a step back. You? Chapter 2030. At this time, the 2 black-faced bodyguards separated and took a step to the sides. A fat, luxuriously dressed woman walked out from behind them. Her gaze swept over Han Zixian's body like a knife. You're Han Zixian? Seeing that the person was Yi Sudong's wife, Jiang Monli, Han Zixuan's first reaction was to turn and run. However, she only managed to take 1 step before a hand grabbed her hair and pulled her back, slamming her hard onto the ground. Bitch, you still want to run? Jiang Monli was very strong. Her fat and wide hand almost tore her scalp. She looked down at the woman who had fallen at her feet. Looking at her gorgeously dressed appearance and her slender waist, she thought of the unsightly scenes in the video and her conversation with Yi Sudong. Those 2 bitches actually called her a disgusting fat woman. Jiang Monli's face was extremely gloomy. Bitch, you like to strip, don't you? I'll let you strip as much as you want. Strip this vixen's clothes for me. Let everyone have a look at her. The bodyguards at the side received the order and immediately rushed forward like wolves. Oh no, go away, go away. What do you want to do? Han Zixuan screamed in panic and covered her clothes. She had always been a goddess that could only be watched from afar and not played with. When had she ever suffered such humiliation? The bodyguard did not have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. Seeing that she resisted, he directly slapped her face. And she was wearing very thin clothes today. The material could not withstand the pull at all. Soon, it was shredded into pieces and hung on her body. It was the peak time of the meal. The square was full of people and passers-by stopped. Wow, what's going on? The wife is hitting the mistress. The commotion had already attracted a large number of onlookers. When the bodyguard slapped Han Zixuan's sunglasses off, after seeing Han Zixuan's face clearly, there was a burst of gas from the onlookers who were watching the show. Damn, isn't that Han Zixuan? Damn, oh my god, it's really her. It's really Han Zixuan. That fat woman looks like Yi Sudong's wife. Damn, this is too explosive. Hurry up and record the video. Record the video. Help me. Help me call the police. Everyone around was taking photos and recording videos, watching with relish. No one stepped forward. Bystanders loved to watch this kind of drama, where the legal wife tore the mistress apart. It was fine if they didn't step forward and step on it, but why would they be a busybody? Slut, who gave you the guts to play with my man? I'll play you to death today. As Jiang Monli spoke, she suddenly pulled a person out from the corner. How is it? Your little lover is so pitiful. Do you feel sorry for him? Yi Sudong's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. Honey, I'm innocent. Why would I feel sorry for this kind of prostitute who can be taken by anyone? Back then, she drugged me. I didn't do it willingly. I was forced. Honey, you must believe me. Don't you know how I feel about you? How could I fall for such a whore? When Han Zixuan saw Yi Sudong appear, she still had a glimmer of hope. But now, looking at this man's shameless face, she was dumbfounded. Yi Sudong, are you still a man? Why didn't she realize that this man was such a coward who was afraid of his wife? Chapter 2031. Han Zixuan glared at Yi Sudong fiercely. She knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Mrs. Yi, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this time. However, Jiang Monli was not so easy to talk to. She got someone to bring a chair to the side and sat down. She let Yi Sudong massage her shoulders while she ordered her men to continue. It wasn't until the police arrived that the farce finally ended. However, this scene had already been spread to every inch of the internet by countless passers-by through photos, videos, and even live broadcasts. Han Zixuan did not know how she escaped from that nightmarish place. In her panic, she rushed into an underground parking lot. A car drove over from the front and braked abruptly, making an ear-piercing sound. The car stopped dangerously in front of Han Zixuan. A man quickly opened the car door and got out to check the situation. He realized that the person who suddenly rushed out was a woman with messy hair and disheveled clothes. After seeing the woman's face, the man was stunned. Han Zixuan saw that the person who got out of the car was someone familiar. She was also stunned. Su, Mr. Su. Su Yin frowned. Han Zixuan looked dazed. Unable to speak, she squatted on the ground and cried. Su Yin saw that Han Zixuan's bare skin was full of scratches from a woman's nails. He seemed to have guessed something, but he did not say it out loud. After all, if Han Zixuan had not exposed her conversation with Shui Luo, things would not have developed to this stage. The misunderstanding between him and Ning she would not have deepened. Therefore, he did not have a good impression of Han Zixuan. Su Yin frowned. He threw down a jacket and drove away. Han Zixuan was full of resentment. She clutched the jacket in her hand and stared in the direction of the car. Zealing Studio. Wow. Super big gossip. Boss, look, Han Zixuan was stripped naked and beaten by Yi Sudong's wife. It's all over the internet. It's so satisfying. Han Momo hugged her phone and rushed toward Ning Shi. She was so excited that her face was red. Ning Shi only glanced at it before moving her gaze away, her interest waning. Her gaze once again landed on Gong Shang's manuscript, and she washed her eyes. Ning Shiluo and Su Yin are so annoying. How dare they show off their love in public? Han Momo said indignantly. Ning Shi looked helpless and doting. Don't read gossip all day long. The Lorraine International Fashion Competition will be held next month. Have you arranged a schedule? I've already arranged it. I won't delay my work. Be good. History is simply too shameless. They followed our trend again and again, and even accused us of plagiarism. This time we must beat them down, Han Momo said angrily. Ningxi saw that Gong Shanze didn't say anything and looked a little distracted. She put down the manuscript and walked over. Aze, what are you thinking about? Gong Shanze wanted to say something, but hesitated. Then he shook his head. Boss, it's fine. Ningxi narrowed her eyes and asked tentatively, Does Dai Wei still have your manuscripts? Gong Shanze bit his lip. I've done some calculations. The manuscript should be gone, but I'm not entirely sure if I've missed anything. Ningxi knew what Gong Shanze was worried about. To him, the hardest thing was to surpass himself. Gong Shanze pursed his lips and looked up at Ningxi. Boss, will you be there then? Ningxi nodded. Of course. How can I not be there at such an important moment? I should be filming in Lorraine then, so I'll definitely be there. Gong Shanze's uneasy expression gradually disappeared after hearing Ningxi's words. His clear eyes were unusually bright. Boss, I won't let you down. Ningxi chuckled. I believe you. Gong Shanze then said a little embarrassedly, Boss, can I go to Deer Town and disturb you and Mr. Liu for a few days? Hearing this, Ningxi immediately said readily, Of course. You'll get a lot of inspiration there, won't you? I can't even bear to leave. Gong Shanze didn't explain and just nodded. Okay. Chapter 2032. Dear Town. What should I do? It's vomiting milk again. Ningxi held the bottle in one hand and the little white tiger in the other. She was flustered. Little Treasure was also anxious. He was about to cry when he saw the little white tiger's uncomfortable appearance. Lu Tingxiao pinched his brows. Let me do it. With that said, he carefully passed the little white tiger over, patted its back, and then changed his position to feed it milk. This time, the little white tiger finally drank the milk successfully. How loving! Ningxi held her chin and looked at her with admiration. Sweetheart, did you also feed Xiaobao like this when he was young? Before Lu Tingxiao could speak, Little Treasure shook his head like a rattle drum and betrayed a certain someone without hesitation. You never fed me milk. Buffed. Ningxi laughed. How do you know? You remember such a small thing? Little Treasure continued to undermine her and said with certainty, This is a normal guess. Lu Tingxiao glanced at his son and coughed softly. He looked helpless, but could not refute. All right, he was too busy at that time. Plus, he had no feelings for this son who was not part of his plans. He did not even see him many times, much less feed him milk. Little Treasure looked up at his mother. When heaven is about to bestow a great responsibility on a man, it must first torture his mind, tire his bones and muscles, starve his body, empty his body, and mess up his actions. Fate must have made me go through these trials so that I could meet Mommy. Ningxi's heart was aching when she saw Little Treasure's bright eyes, saying these words to her in an unusually serious manner. She was taken aback at first, then she hugged the little fellow and kissed him. She smiled and said, Baby, why are you so cute? Lu Tingxiao, who had been ridiculed inexplicably, was speechless. Torture his mind, tire his bones and muscles, and starve his body? Did he mistreat him like that? He felt like he had been tricked at the same time by the emerald green lake. The little deer drank water leisurely. Birds flew across the lake. Gong Shanze's back was facing the surface of the lake as he sat cross-legged on the grass. He held a pen and paper in his hand as he looked intently at the family of 3 not far away. His eyes were filled with a dazzling light. The nimble tip of the pen seemed to have a life of its own as it sketched on the draft paper. Lu Jingli hid far away from Ning Shi and his brother. He hugged half a watermelon and squatted next to Gong Shanze. He used a spoon to dig, and from time to time, he would glance at Gong Shanze, who was furiously writing. After squatting for an unknown period of time, the number of pink bubbles on the other side was almost suffocating, but Gong Shanze still didn't move. Lu Jingli really couldn't hold it in anymore. He looked at Gong Shangza as if he was looking at a god and sighed in amazement. This little brother, you are really very courageous. This was the first time he had seen someone take the initiative to come and eat dog food, and eat it so seriously. When Gong Shangza heard this, he looked at him suspiciously, not understanding what Lu Jingli meant. Second young master, what about me? Lu Jingli patted his shoulder earnestly and said with a pained expression, You're a single dog. Doesn't it hurt your heart to look at this? Gong Shangza tilted his head and looked at Lu Jingli with some surprise. How can it be? I'm very happy. Lu Jingli was speechless as the corner of his mouth twitched. The thinking of a genius was indeed different from that of a normal person. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.